So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Superintendent Shea and our Business Administrator, Katie Kraus, to have the hearing. I believe that we'll have time for comments and clarifications, maybe.
We're going to do the presentation first, and then it'll be followed by the public hearing.
Great. So we'll do the presentation first. If there's any clarifications or you need understanding but not deliberation, please ask those questions during the hearing in the presentation, and then we will open it up to the public. Thank you. Thank you, Superintendent Shea.
Thank you. Just a reminder, particularly for folks that might be joining in at this point, what the process has looked like thus far. Began with a budget committee, school board budget committee meeting in January. We received the tax cap number for next year a few weeks ago in January. The district administrative team has looked at all this. We had state projected revenue numbers at the tail end of last year. The next step was to bring to the school board on January 27th, which was a school board workshop, a proposal for a proposed budget for the coming year, a report on what the tax cap budget was, and then to essentially begin grappling with the difference between the proposed budget and the tax cap budget, which was $2.2 million. We put forth an outline. And then at the February 3rd Budget Committee meeting, which was just 2 nights ago, based on feedback at the committee meeting, good discussion, good deliberation, we revised the cut list, which you'll see before you tonight in a little bit. After this evening, just remember that on Monday, February 9th, 6 p.m. here at City Hall, we have another Budget Committee meeting to look at the feedback that has come from this meeting and the deliberation, and that is also posted as a public input session, as the Budget Committee would like to invite folks with input on that. And then it will be on Monday, February 16th, that we anticipate the school board will approve a school budget for 26-27, both a proposed budget and a tax-compliant budget. We send that to the City Council, and then it is the City Council that has the final say in March, or more likely the first part of April. Katie's going to go through in detail the 26-27 proposed budget. For those of you who've been a part of the past few meetings, that's going to look pretty much identical to what you've already seen, but it's very important as folks join in that we understand that budget. And then we'll talk about the difficult part, which is the difference between that budget and the tax-compliant budget. Thanks, Katie.
So I'm going to skip a few slides because John just stole my thunder with the first beginning part of the presentation, so I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. So we're going to go over 2 budgets tonight. The first will be the proposed budget, which I'll go over in detail. So the proposed budget includes meeting all of our contractual obligations for existing staff and programs, as well as adding some additional proposed staff and programs. It represents an 8.9 increase over the current approved budget. The second budget we're going to go through is the tax cap compliant budget. As John mentioned, we needed to make some reductions to the proposed budget in order to meet the tax cap compliant budget, and that represents a 2.6% increase over the current year. So first is our estimated revenue for next year. Our projected estimated revenue is $10,605,739, which is a decrease of approximately $53,340. We had a reduction in our building aid. This is revenue we received for the Idlehurst Elementary School project. It's built over a 20-year span, so that decreases every year. So we have a decrease of $17,850. We had a reduction in the use of fund balance. Last year, the school board approved using $200,000 of our unexpended funds from last year to carry forward into this budget. Any unexpended funds that we have at the end of this year will be going towards the school care assessment, so we won't have any of those funds to build in for next year. We had an increase in our state of New Hampshire adequacy education aid of $122,595. This is based on 100% of the estimate that the state provides to us in November. And then next year in September, they will revise that estimate based on the end of year data that's submitted. We increased a few areas also in the revenue. We increased our preschool tuition. We received tuition from our parents for our non-identified preschool students. We also had an increase in CTC tuition, both local CTC tuition that we receive from area districts, as well as the state aid that we receive. And we also had an increase in other state aid. So this chart just shows the breakdown of where our estimated revenue comes from. So as you can see, about 71% of the revenue we receive comes from local property tax. 28.23% comes from state, and the rest comes from a small piece of Medicaid federal reimbursement and local tuition and building use fees. So the majority is raised by local taxes. On the expenditure side, our proposed budget is $36,802,805. That's an increase of just over $3 million. This chart shows the budget increases and where they come from. So you can see 47% of the budget is made up of salary increases and 35% is benefit increases. So that's the majority of where you're going to see the increases coming from. For salaries, as I said, it's 47% of the increase. It's $1,426,404 increase. Included in the salaries are annual salary increases. So there's a 5% increase included in the proposed budget for teachers, 5% for SECA, which includes our paraprofessionals and our clerical staff, 5% for our custodial and maintenance staff, 5% for our SAU support staff. These are our hourly staff members at the SAU office. Administrators is a 3.5% increase. Non-union staff is 3.5%. There's also a 3.5% increase for our co-curricular and athletic stipends. This is built into the teacher contract. A 4% increase for the assistant superintendent and business administrator.
Just an important thing to insert here is that I recommended that the assistant superintendent and business administrator get 4% because both volunteered along with myself to go flat last year with the healthcare addition. So that was simply a matter to just kind of get them a little more caught up.
The superintendent is determined by the school board, but not to exceed 4%. And then also included in salaries are track changes for staff who are moving from degree levels in the teacher contract. There are some proposed additional staff included in this budget. The Director of Student Services position, there's an increase for the chorus theater position from part-time to full-time. A proposed additional high school teacher. A proposed additional ESOL teacher district-wide. A proposed additional classroom teacher at Idlehurst. And a proposed additional special ed case managers. There's 2 of them built into the budget. We did have one reduction in staff, and I did find a typo in the presentation in your hard copy, so I fixed it on the screen, but note it in your hard copy. It's an administrative assistant position at the SAU, not an administrative
Katie.
position.
That's okay. We were looking at it, so everyone strike that through.
Put an assistant next to it. I did fix it on the screen, and it's on the
appreciate
website adjusted, but
Thank you.
we fixed it right before the meeting.
Can I'm going to jump ahead just a little bit for context, and I appreciate you having all this because it's the exact amount is a little bit further. When you see all these amounts kind of in here, you see, I think we said the 3 million, the net budget increase, but the allowable tax cap increase this year is 876,268. So it's just good to understand.
Yeah, we're going to get to the tax cap.
No, I
Yeah.
went ahead just for perspective. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yep. For benefits, again, it's a 35% increase to the budget for benefits. Totals $1,040,315. Our health insurance rates came in at 7.9%, and this is for SECA only, again, for our paraprofessionals and clerical staff, and 4% for all others. The reason for that is there's a change in the medical plan that we have. Currently, we have the yellow with choice fund plan. School Care is sunsetting that plan, so we need to move to a new plan. However, SECA is in one more year of their negotiated agreement, so they can't switch until that agreement is up. So that's why there's a change in the rates there. This does increase our out-of-pocket maximum for employees, and also there's additional deductibles that come along with that new plan. Our dental rate increase was 5%. We had a decrease for our property and liability insurance through Primex, and a small increase for our workers' compensation insurance. Also included in the benefits are payroll taxes and retirement. There were no changes to the rates for retirement. However, it is an increase because when your salaries increase, those percentage, the increases for FICA and retirement go up as well. Life and long-term disability is included, and that's also based on salary. There was a small course reimbursement increase for teachers based on the contract that passed. Some retiree health insurance changes. We adjusted the athletic retirement for the stipends because we're hiring more outside staff instead of inside, so we don't have to pay retirement on those salaries for those staff. And the biggest increase to the benefit page is the school care assessment balance of $450,000. For purchase services, these are items for contracted services that the district provides. So this was a 14% increase, $425,916. This includes special education contracted services for speech, PT, and OT. There was a decrease in contracted services for special education because right now we are contracting with some paraprofessionals from outside agencies. We're trying to move those back in-house. Our special education out-of-district placements are included in here. That was about a $400,000 increase to the budget for next year. We have athletic contracted services for our athletic trainer. There's an additional second school resource officer built into this section for $93,000. Our increases for our iReady assessment are included here. And $125,000 was built in for some professional development planning, summer work, and math direction and plans. Our regular ed, special ed, and career and tech transportation annual increases are included here. And our IT services contract reduction of $60,000. For supplies, print media, and software, there was a small 1% increase of $29,204. There was a decrease for our building level supplies, print media, and software requests. It was basically even for that area. Facilities had an increase of $31,000 for their supplies and annual increases. And there was also $18,000 of technology annual software increases. For equipment, there was a 3% increase of $100,728. We have 4 facilities projects built into the proposed budget. Repairs for the Maplewood intercom and phone. The middle school, high school gym floor refinishing, a CTC hot water heater and pump replacement, and a maintenance truck replacement. These all total $79,000. And then there's $25,000 built into equipment for a technology project for a battery backup project. This project is E-rate eligible, so the $25,000 is just 40% of the cost. The other 60% is going to come from E-rate. And then the last is other. There's a decrease of $19,112. The majority of that decrease is due to our debt service reduction for other bonds that we have outstanding. So in summary, as I said, the total expenditure increase is just over $3 million. That's an estimated tax impact of $1.54 on the tax rate. Add that the decrease of revenue of $53,340 gives you a net budget increase of $3,056,795, which is an estimated tax impact of $1.57. So this slide is regarding the tax cap. So as the superintendent mentioned, every year we're provided with an estimate of the tax cap from the city. I've given you the calculation here. There's a city portion, a school portion, a state portion, and a county portion. It starts by taking our prior fiscal year net amount raised by taxes and multiplying that by the national CPIU, and that gives you a subtotal there. Then they factor in net construction value from April 1st to March 31st, and then that's multiplied by the current tax rate. So the school gets their increase based on the school portion and the state portion. So if you add those two together, at the bottom, it's $876,268 is how much we can increase our budget by for next year. So as Maggie mentioned at the top of the next slide, our current proposed budget is a $56,795 increase. The total allowable per the tax cap is the $876,268. So right now we are $2,180,527 above the tax cap. Do you want to go from here? Or no, you want me to keep going? So in order to meet the tax cap, we had to make significant budget reductions to our proposed budget. So when we have to do this, we use the following process. The building administrators submitted to the superintendent prospective reductions to their individual budgets. The district leadership team, which is John, Kat, and myself, reviewed all the reductions that were submitted, and then came up with some reductions from the SAU office and compiled a district-wide list of reductions. The administrative team, which consists of all of the building administrators and the central office leadership, met, discussed the list of budget reductions, and presented it to the school board at the budget workshop. The budget committee met on February 3rd, discussed and made adjustments to the reductions to forward onto this public presentation and public hearing tonight. Good.
So, thank you, Katie.
I'll stay and do the slides.
Thank you. We'll be on this one for a bit. So just to make sure everybody got the overarching issue here, we're proposing a budget of $36.8 million in round numbers, but fair and accurate round numbers. That, to be clear, is about a 9% increase over this year's budget. If it weren't for the school care assessment, which is impacting us with $672,400, part of which we already paid and part of which we've got now in next year's budget, we'd be looking at about a 7% increase. I know both those numbers are hard to swallow, but I just want to be clear about that. We did not come in at 9% because we thought that was the right amount to go to City Council with. We came in at 9% because we looked at really hard at what this district needs in order to move forward. And we came up with a number significantly higher than this, and then we backed up some things that we said we could wait another year on, we could wait another year on, we could wait another year on, and only came forward with what we believed was a rational, compelling case for next steps for next year. I get that it's a difficult decision from here in terms of tax cap and the things that the City Council needs to balance, but I told the City Council early on that my job will always be to present to you what I think we need, and I have an appreciation for the difficult decisions and the partnership we've established with City Council in terms of making these things work. So we're basically left with a $2.2 million gap between our proposed budget and a tax compliant budget. For those of you who were part of the earlier meetings, the list that you see in front of you is a revised version of what you saw before. I'm just going to go through the line items to say, okay, what are we proposing comes out of that $36.8 million budget to get us to a $34.6 million tax cap compliant budget. And we will continue to discuss and deliberate this, the goal being that by February 16th, we have an agreement and we move on to the City Council. The things that have guided our decision-making process here, three things. Number one, the obvious one, best interest of students today, tomorrow, next year, and in the longer term. Their learning, their health, everything we can possibly do. Close second to that is staff. Taking care of your staff, making sure your staff have the resources, the PD, the support, so that they can do everything possible for our kids. And a good climate and culture within our buildings is a huge factor for good results for kids. Usually that's where you can stop, but the third compelling thing we looked at is having capacity and resources to move this district forward at a critical time. So it makes an already difficult budget year that much more difficult. But we are in pretty unique and compelling circumstances right now. And we believe that it's merited to consider finding resources in that area and making sure we have the capacity to move forward on all three priorities. I'm going to turn to this sheet here. You'll see a footnote at the bottom. This is an important one because we realized after the last couple of meetings in looking at the dollar numbers over here for full-time equivalents of positions, there might have been a mistaken assumption that some of these were salaries. There was a reference in our last meeting to teachers with triple-digit salaries. None of our teachers have triple-digit salaries. Our scale taps out M plus master's degree plus 30 and 13 years of experience or more, I think is right around $80,000 this year, if I'm correct. Just to make sure we're clear about that. So the numbers you see for positions are total cost of position, which is salary, payroll taxes, and benefits. And as a general rule of thumb, it depends on what policy and healthcare folks take, it's about 60% of that is salary. 60% of that is salary, just to make sure, folks, I didn't want there to be any misunderstanding about that. And just in terms of a couple quick things related to past meetings, because I know folks tuned in, numbers about paras potentially being cut and total staff being cut in the 30s. We anticipate right now reducing paraeducators by 5 to 7, and that would kind of be a strategic decision to rethink how we deploy them. And based on the typical turnover and openings we have at the end of the year, that would very likely not be any human beings losing their job, but simply fewer openings that we're looking for at the end of the year. And we expect that existing current teaching professional staff, I'd like that number to be 0, but it would be a single-digit number in terms of existing folks on board that might not be in the final budget. That stinks, but I just want to make sure we're clear about where we are. And although things are difficult around us right now, I also want to be really clear, there's no plans to reconfigure grades, to send high school kids anywhere else. A lot of things that are urgent and compelling and coming at us, I thought were a generation away a couple of years ago, but I think now we realize they may be 3 to 5 years away, and hence the compelling need to kind of get at some of these things. And in the midst of all this difficult conversation, I just want to say so clearly how awesome this school district is. Without necessarily all the resources we should have, coaches and counselors and teachers and paraeducators show up day in and day out, and the kids show up day in and day out, and pretty amazing things happen day in and day out, from athletics to arts to music to academics across the board. We are not serving all of our kids as well as we should be. That is without a doubt. And the March 10th school board meeting is going to be a hard look at that. We need to do better. 40% or so, close to 40% of our staff are kind of Somersworth by birth, Somersworth by, my parents moved here. I'm here by choice, and I could not, this community is amazing. And I have all the confidence in the world that we are going to get through what is a very difficult time and not survive, but be one of the best school districts in the state, if not the country, forced to kind of look harder at some things and move forward. I just want to be clear about that. The slide that's before you right there, for those that haven't been part of the process yet, I'll go through line item by line item, and I'll just explain how it's different from the last one, and then I'll leave it at there for now. What we are proposing to get from the $36.8 million 9% increase proposed budget to a tax cap compliant budget of $34.6 million is taking a proposed additional high school teaching position out of the budget, taking a proposed additional Idlehurst teacher out of the budget, taking a proposed additional special education manager. We put 2 new case managers in the proposed budget. We're taking one of them out to get to here. Taking 2 middle school teaching positions out of the budget. Those are not additional proposed. Did I say additional proposed? 2 current middle school teaching positions out of the budget. A current media specialist position out of the budget. A current CTC program / teacher, a program is a teacher, the electives, the offerings they offer, out of the budget. 7 paraprofessional positions out of the budget, and I want to be clear, this is partly the needs of a tax cap compliant budget and partly thinking in a district with 80 plus paraeducators, we need to kind of restructure and rethink how we deploy paraeducators and do that more effectively. Our paraeducators are incredible and they work ridiculously hard, but it is difficult to find 75, 80, 85 paraeducators in this market. And we might do better to kind of tighten up a little bit. Custodial positions, we had everybody in next year's budget, and this version takes either 2 part-times or a full-time equivalent out of the custodial staff. Our custodial staff are as student-facing as our teachers and our paraeducators in so many ways. We're taking a current elementary teaching position out of the budget. Based on budget committee feedback and recommendations, last go-around, we've added 2 of our 4 assistant principal positions to the reductions. Based on budget committee feedback last meeting on Tuesday, we've taken our assistant superintendent position out of the budget. Social worker contracted position that we looked at last year as well. This is slated to be out of the budget. Professional development, planning work, summer work for curriculum, math direction plans, and we had $125,000 new money in the proposed budget. and we're taking 100,000 out of it. This is an increased cut from where we were on Tuesday night, simply given if we're taking a assistant superintendent and 2 APs out of the equation, we were not going to have the capacity to utilize those resources going forward. Discussions about additional second school resource officer that was proposed for next year. In this version of the budget, that is reduced. Utilities and fuel adjustment because the superintendent walks, $22,000.
One funny part.
Yeah, technology contract adjustment. In the proposed budget, our technology contract will be less than it is this year. We're in conversations with our current provider. We're in conversations with others to continue to see that reduce. But we're already expecting it to be 180,000 is in the proposed budget. That's down. We're wondering if we can knock another $25,000 out of it. And then finally, proposed facilities line items, not major projects, but line items decreases of 31,000. I'll focus there and simply add how this is different than last time and then stop, if that makes sense. What we did from what was proposed on Tuesday night, the 2 assistant principal positions were not on the reduction list, and the assistant superintendent position was not on the reduction list. By bringing those 3 positions to the reduction list, what we prioritized in terms of getting off the reduction list in this revision was the school-to-home coordinator, the proposed additional ESOL teacher, because of how out of compliance we are currently with federal regulations and grants in terms of the services that kids get and just how important those needs are. We took out a half of a custodial cut. We took out the administrative assistant cut going from Somersworth Middle School, Somersworth High School, CTC, 6 administrative positions to 5, but if we're taking 2 APs out, can't do both of those. We took a high school teaching position and brought it down to the bottom for the high school. We brought 1 middle school teaching position of what was 3 earlier down to the bottom.
2?
No, we already had 1. There were 3 middle school teaching positions on the reduction list on Tuesday, and now there are 2. So we took 1 down. There were 4 originally on the table. We had 3 above the line and 1 below.
Just to make sure.
Where are you looking?
Right on the presentation. Katie, do you mind going to the next page? Sorry. Do you mind?
Yeah, he's not on the next page.
Yeah. We had 4, just to be clear, at the last, there's 2, and for folks that weren't here last go around, this part will be tricky. What we were looking at were the proposed cuts, and the next slide is sort of the additional considerations so we don't lose track of the things that we consider we might want to move back and forth. So on Tuesday, we brought forth a proposed budget, tax cap compliant budget that included 3 middle school teaching positions cut, and we had 1 below the line as a consideration to actually go as significantly as 4. Based on feedback last night, which I would have pushed a little harder, and I imagine we're going to talk about this, class size, teacher ratios, enrollment numbers in detail, so just folks understand this. It goes without saying that your SAU team loves all 4 of our schools and the CTC program. It's just a matter of trying to figure out where to find the money. So we pulled 1 middle school position of those 3 proposed cuts off. So now we're left with 2 middle school cuts, and you have 2 in the wings to consider as possibilities. Is that clear? And I apologize for the folks particularly that haven't been part of this process. So that was a lot.
One more time, just for my clarification. So I see middle school here as 2 above, and then I see 2 for middle school.
Correct.
2. So 4 total, 2 above and 2. Where's the 1 coming from?
We had, at the last
Oh,
meeting,
you're
we had
talking about-
3 above, 3 were in the cut list, and 1 was on the consideration list.
Got it.
And now you got 2 on the cut list and 2 on the consideration list. Yep.
Got it.
Sorry. And again, I apologize for folks that this is tricky to follow. Middle school. And our facilities director, Jay Lilly, had proposed 5 major projects that should have been done 3 years ago. We had 2 being completed. We left 2 in the proposed budget. We brought 2 or 3 out, and now we're able to save those in this budget. And it wasn't so much that, sorry, Jay, that those rose to the top of the list, but at that point, we're like, where else can we find that amount of money? So it was a good thing to get it in there. But we are behind on major projects. That's significant. We count on the end of year balance. We know we won't have that this year, so we're trying to figure out how to get in what we can to the year ahead.
Elementary
Good.
teacher, too.
Did I cover that? Let me teach my second. I think that was already down there.
Elementary, okay.
So I was only focused on what was new. Are we on the second slide, Katie? Is that,
Right, yeah.
okay. Yeah. So for folks to clearly understand, because that was a lot, the first slide, if we can go back to the first slide. Tonight, based on feedback from the Budget Committee, this is our proposed cut list right there, period. That's where we find the $2.2 million. By way of reminder, the City Council is not obligated to give us a tax cap compliant budget, which is a little bit under 3%. They have the leeway to go under that. They have the leeway to go at it. They have the leeway to consider going above. And these are all difficult decisions at a time when other departments are struggling for resources and the community is struggling with property taxes. We get all of that. So we're doing our best to put this forth. The second slide, as of the discussion Tuesday night, changed as well, which is other things to consider to cut. Because without those there, it's hard to have a discussion about whether or not anything else. You can't really move other things around if you don't have other things kind of off the table to consider. We worked really hard over the last 2 or 3 weeks to make sure there wasn't something missing from the table, either that's on the cut list or in reserve. And I think we've got it, and we've covered a lot of little line, every little penny is what Katie was focused on. Kat did really good work at looking at where we are in terms of needs across the district, educationally, paraeducators, special education, our special education team, looking both hard at what we need and if there's places we can find savings, like moving away from contracted out, which is more expensive, to internal hired folks where it's possible.
All right, the last two slides, this again is just a tax cap budget summary. So as we mentioned, the total increase would be $876,278, and that's a 45-cent increase on the tax rate estimated. And then next steps, following this presentation is the opportunity for the budget public hearing for the community to speak, and the first reading of the budget by the board. At our next school board meeting on February 16th, there will be a second reading on the budget and a vote on the proposed budget to forward it on to the city manager. And then the budget will be submitted to the city manager on March 1st. I didn't put on here, we also have a meeting on Monday, the 9th, budget committee meeting and public input session as well to hear feedback from the community. And that's all I have.
So today, Monday, and the 16th for the school side of the budget for input and feedback. Thank you. Thank you both. All right, this is the time, and you'll have 2 more times, but this is a time to come up and speak to anything that was discussed about budget. Just state your name, if you're a resident of which ward, who you are in general. Be happy to hear you. It's a little nerve-wracking coming up to the podium, but we're welcome. Okay.
Hi, my name is, can you hear me? My name's Jody Corbiel, and I teach at Idlehurst. I teach first grade. This is, there's a lot on that list that I feel like I could go through, but I kind of focused on what I think the biggest priority is. Although I will say there are 117 first graders right now. Just keep that in your head when you're thinking about how many second grade teachers there should be next year. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. First, I want to thank everyone for their time and commitment to the school board and your willingness to work through this difficult budget process. I do not envy the position you're in. I've worked in Somersworth for over 20 years, and in that time, I've worked under 8 different superintendents and various assistant superintendents. At no other point in time has the district had such a clear, focused, and driven purpose as it does now. While Kat Crosby may not have the FaceTime with children, as mentioned in Carrie's Facebook post, she's created a purpose-driven focus for curriculum in the district. In my opinion, it is the role of the superintendent to create and carry out the big picture vision for the district. Things such as the strategic plan, the initiative to empower not only our students, but our educators, managing political aspects of public education, and being the face of the district. The assistant superintendent is responsible for the implementation of the day-to-day pieces that make the strategic plan successful. Kat Crosby is without a doubt the most effective SAU level administrator I have worked with during my time in Somersworth. And to cut her would not only be detrimental to our school district, it would set our school district back to a time where each school was operating as its own silo, independently from each other. For many years, we had superintendents with no clear vision, purpose, and flat goals for academic growth and achievement. I could go into detail about the weaknesses of various administrators and their lack of vision, but I don't think it's necessary. Kat and John together make a dynamic team that is working to bring Somersworth forward in all aspects, creating the Somersworth Promise, creating 5-year goals, and looking to align curriculum from pre-K through grade 12 are just a few of the things they've created, brought to staff, and already have made part of the district focus. The last time classroom teachers were made aware that someone at the SAU level was working to create pre-K through grade 12 systems for learning was easily 2007 or 2008. There has been no thoughtful curriculum coordination between grade levels or between schools in well over a decade. Administrator after administrator came into the role of superintendent or assistant superintendent with either no experience as classroom teachers, or they made the decision not to make curriculum and cohesiveness a priority for the district. I can't speak for any other building or teacher, but I know that while I enjoy the freedom to make my day my own, I also crave structure and consistency between grade levels in both math and literacy. Selfishly, I believe Kat is the model that all other administrators should strive to be. Sorry, John. She's fair, even, and thoughtful. When concerns arise, she's eager and ready to hear from us, and she takes our concerns and input seriously. Kat is intentional in her decision-making, and that is apparent in the path that we are moving on. Without Kat, our district would be in a boat with no paddle, and not because John isn't capable, but because the vision for curriculum and instruction falls to the assistant superintendent. I wish we were not in a position to be cutting any staff, and I do agree that student-facing positions are absolutely critical. However, staff-facing positions are equally important. Kat has been present in our building and has taken the time to know the staff. Her door is open, and she wants to hear from us when issues arise. That ideology has not been present in our SAU since Jenny Moscow was in the role of assistant superintendent, which again was possibly a decade ago or more. I couldn't quite remember. Way more, right? That's what I thought. I hope you'll reconsider your decision to cut the assistant superintendent role and weigh the damage not having someone focused on curriculum, assessment, and instruction will do to our district. We want Somersworth to be a vision for other districts, a place families want their children to attend, and a place where growth, learning, and academics are a priority. Again, I'm asking you to keep Kat Crosby and the role of assistant superintendent on the books and in the SAU. We finally have a vision, and we'd like to see it through. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Ethan. Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Welcome to come on up. Welcome. I think the green light should maybe still be on. Is it on?
Is it on?
Great.
Okay. Judy Strait. I live at 4 Morning Street in Somersworth. Have been a resident here of 63 years. Have 2 children that graduated from the high school here, and have been very pleased, mostly with things that went on. I haven't been up to date with a lot of the things going with the school budget now. I'll be paying more attention. I heard, and I saw in the listing today, that one of the things you consider getting rid of are the assistant principals. I worked at Dover High School in the Dover school system for 33 years, and I worked in the with the principal and with the assistant principal. The assistant principal's job is very, very essential. I know you come to a point that there's something you have to cut, but not only as disciplinarian, but the fact that they know the children, the students, especially when I worked at the high school, the young adults, and the teachers, and were often the person that knew and could bring information back to the principal because they were out there with them. So I just speak, and hopefully that you would reconsider that, because I think that it's a very essential position.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Becky Patton. I live at 18 Cinnamon Ridge Road in Ward 4. I am also the library media specialist at Somersworth Middle School. And while a media specialist position is one of the positions that is listed as a possible cut on the budget this year, I'm actually not here to talk about that tonight. My bigger concern is about the addition of the assistant principal positions. I've worked in the middle school for 15 years. In those 15 years, the position of the assistant principal has been crucial to not only the well-being of our staff, but also of our students. The person that has held this position, regardless of who it has been, is tasked with addressing student behavioral issues, not only as they come up in the form of removing a student from the classroom who is disrupting the learning environment of the other students, but also in speaking with students who perhaps had a misstep, just needs to have a quick conversation with an administrator about the expectations of our building. On an average day, and I think we can all probably agree there's no such thing as an average day in a public school, our assistant principal meets with anywhere from 10 to 15 students in anywhere from 10 to 20-ish minutes, not including the calls to remove that disruptive or unsafe student in a classroom, which can come at any moment and needs to happen expeditiously in order to maintain the safety and fidelity of that classroom. Once those students have been met with, contact then needs to be made with those families after school hours to let them know of the conversations that took place during the school day. During the last few meetings, and again tonight, we've heard the phrase student facing. I'm not sure that there are many positions in a school that don't meet that description. I heard somebody earlier say our custodians are student facing. Our cafeteria staff are student facing. We are all developing relationships with our students, our assistant principals included. As a matter of fact, I would say that this is a critical part of what they do. Some of our students with the greatest challenges are the ones that the assistant principal meets with several times a week, whether it be disciplinary reasons, to provide a safe environment for a student to talk, or to provide academic support. I couldn't mention how many times I have seen students in our building's assistant principal's office helping with math. I would like her help with math. The assistant principals that I've worked with in the middle school have been student-facing as much as any classroom teacher I've worked with. It is because of these supports that we have in place that our building is the least restrictive environment for many students. Without all of these supports, I'm actually concerned that we would be looking at a much greater incurred cost for out-of-district placements. I've also been reading and hearing people talk about the administrative layers in our school district. I spent many years working in corporate environments. I can tell you I've witnessed administrative layers. What we have going on in our schools is not that. What we do have, though, are people in our school buildings who split the responsibilities of caring for and supporting our students and our staff so that we can all be successful in our education. By taking away and or sharing administrators between buildings, you would be creating a scenario where students would not feel as though they have a safe place to learn, and staff may not feel that they have a fully supportive place to work. In addition to all the student contact, our building administrators attend several IEP and 504 meetings weekly, which they split so that neither has to do all of them and one can always be available to support the building. This takes a significant amount of time. If we only had one administrator in a building, it would create even less time for them to be building trusted relationships with our students. I know your job is difficult. I would not want it. I thank you for all that you do. I just ask that you please be mindful that remember that every staff member is invaluable to the success of our students, and every staff member is what makes SMS a great place to work, learn, and be. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? Thank you. Welcome.
My name is Lorraine Field, and I work in the Somersworth School District. I've been working in the district for 15 years, and I'm not speaking on behalf of myself tonight. I think you all saw Mr. Wood had to take a departure because his child was having some challenges. And he handed me this note on the way out and said, would you please read this for me? So with your permission, I would do that. And I'm going to try not to cry when I do. So he wrote, my name is John Wood, and he was here with his son James, who's a student of the Somersworth School District. He goes on to say, we have some very big concerns with budget cuts in regard to where these cuts are being made, as it seems to be affecting mostly students with special needs. James was diagnosed with level 2 autism in 2021, and I want to start by saying that you guys at the Somersworth School District have been phenomenal throughout his development. James requires a paraprofessional. Many kids with autism elope, which is when they tend to run away due to overstimulation of other unknown factors. In James's case, when he elopes, he is completely unaware of any surrounding dangers, meaning he will run right out in front of a moving car if he was to escape the building. He has a little note here that he wanted to explain his daycare situation. I'm not going to speak on his behalf on that, but I'm sure that he could share some situations that happened. Having these individuals ensures James' safety and other student safety that may have similar diagnoses. Not only do they aid in safety, but help with all other daily tasks that require daily assistance. I understand budget cuts, and statistically speaking, this is affecting 1% of students, but that 1% requires that help in order to be a functioning student. Please consider changing some of where these proposed cuts are coming from, and know how badly cutting these important staff members will negatively affect these special needs children. Us as parents of the 1% want to feel as if their children are safe in your hands, and removing these important people will in fact take that security from us.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you. Hi, welcome.
Hi, my name is Cassandra St. Pierre. I live on Green Street in Somersworth, Ward 2. I am a para at Idlehurst Elementary, as a mother to my daughter Jadalyn, who's a student at Somersworth. My daughter doesn't need a para, but is in a WIN class to help her with her reading. She loves school and loves learning, but some days she struggles to learn because of behaviors of other students. With budget cuts that would be jeopardizing staff positions, I worry as a mother that students that need extra support will not get it. That will not only cause more behaviors in children that are frustrated that they are having a hard time, but don't know how to properly express their feelings, but will also impact the learning of students around them. Every student deserves to have a school that they feel safe, supported, encouraged, and happy in. Budgets and money are not my forte, but being a voice for my daughter is. As a parent, my greatest hope is that my daughter continues to attend school where she is not just educated, but truly cared for. I ask that you consider the real human impact behind these proposed reductions and protect the resources that allow our youngest learners to succeed. I entrust when I send her to school every day that she feels all of this, not overwhelmed because of chaos or defeated because she struggled with something and there was not enough staff to support all the needs. I understand that the support has to go to students with higher needs, but what about my daughter, who is in higher needs, but still needs a little extra support? Cutting jobs from our school will make it a lot easier for students like my daughter Jadalyn to fall further behind and not excel in areas she is needing help but not able to get it. Please consider all the impacts this will make, not only for the students that need the help, but for all the students who would be impacted by the distraction that will take place from higher behaviors in class or teachers having to spend more time with students needing more help. Their needs may be higher, but my daughter is just as important. I am also deeply concerned by the discussion of potentially closing the high school and sending Somersworth students to other districts. Even if this is presented as a future or exploratory option, it has real implications for families with younger children like mine. The possibility that my daughter may grow up without a clear, stable pathway through her own community school is unsettling. A school district is more than individual buildings. It is continuation, identity, and a sense of belonging. Removing that continuation risks weakening not only educational outcomes, but the fabric of our community itself. I understand that budget decisions are difficult and that the district faces real financial constraints. I appreciate the work being done to navigate these challenges. However, I respectfully urge the board to prioritize maintaining strong staffing, support at the elementary level. Early investment in children pays dividends for years to come, academically, socially, and emotionally. Prevents greater costs down the road. Thank you for your time, your service, and your consideration in considering the voices of the families in our community.
Thank you so much. Nice job. Okay, anyone else on the hearing? Okay.
It is nerve-wracking coming up. My name is Stephanie Lafreniere, and I am not a resident of Somersworth, but it is my second year serving as the Director of Grants and Development for the SAU. I wasn't able to attend Tuesday's meeting because I got that dreaded sick call with my kid with a fever, so I wasn't able to speak then, but watched the meeting from afar, and I'm happy to have this opportunity tonight. For context, my comments I want to share are from my informed experience as a school social worker, assistant principal, principal, director, assistant superintendent, and state administrator. I want to share my appreciation for the work this board is doing and for the difficult questions you are being asked to consider. When I first attended school board meetings and the school board administrative retreat in Somersworth, I remember telling my husband how excited I was to work in this district. I felt immediately that this was the board that was truly loved their community, wanted to support the schools, and wanted to move that district forward. That commitment was clear then, and it remains clear to me today. So thank you, and I appreciate the difficulty of your decision making. I was also excited to join the SAU administrative team. Through my work in the state level, I knew Katie's reputation as a highly competent business administrator. I was familiar with Kat Crosby's amazing leadership in Rochester and starting up a brand new school in Middleton, and I was drawn to John Shea's reputation as both an educational leader and deeply committed community member. I can say without hesitation that this is an exceptional leadership team. John's dedication to Somersworth is extraordinary. He is consistently present in the community, building relationships, attending events, collaborating, and celebrating the district. I have worked with many superintendents in districts and across the state, and I can truly say he is the best there is. Kat brings not only, see, I get emotional just like him. It's contagious. We collaborate so well, we both get emotional. Kat brings not only instructional expertise, but the ability to build systems where none previously existed. Early on, the schools had been operating in silos, and nearly every initiative revealed the need for consistent district-wide systems. We couldn't ask for a better leader and thought partner in this work than Kat, and I consider myself fortunate to work with her each and every day as the assistant superintendent. Katie provides continuity and institutional knowledge and a steady focus on making things work for students and staff. Even through challenging times, she is truly a master at what she does. I share this because it is the SAU administration that brings the recommendations to the board, including the proposed budget, and I hope it is clear how much thought, research, expertise, and collaboration goes into those considerations. The Hilltopper Promise is not just a statement, it's a commitment. I have worked on many strategic plans and that were well-intentioned and never fully realized. This promise is different. It is actionable, and our staff and administration are ready to deliver it, but only if leadership structures remain in place to properly support it. Teachers cannot do it alone. One administrator at a building is not enough. One administrator at the SAU is not enough. The assistant superintendent plays a critical role as the connective tissue of the district, supporting the superintendent, serving as a trusted sounding board, and providing additional layers of leadership that helps ensure thoughtful, balanced decision-making. This role allows the superintendent to lead strategically rather than in constant reaction, and it ensures continuity, perspective, and follow through across the district. Just as the board would never be expected to lead the district effectively with a single school board member, our SAU and schools cannot be expected to function or thrive with only one leadership role. At the school level, the assistant superintendent is often the bridge between district vision and school level reality, supporting the principals as they navigate complex instructional, operational, and student-centered challenges. Principals need a partner they can call and think through difficult decisions with, test ideas, and problem solve in real time. That layer of support matters. Each year, school administrative teams in the district have been asked to make suggested cuts, which is incredibly difficult, and I honestly don't know how they have managed to do it year after year. Once that budget is finalized, these same school leaders have to go back to their schools, sit down together, and figure out how to make it all work with less. The schools will have less. That is unavoidable. But please do not send principals back to the buildings to navigate that work alone. Shared leadership is always best, and it is critically needed here. And I will add that all these principals and assistant principals were paired together because they complement each other's skill sets and approaches with students and approaches to ideas. So you're taking apart half a person, really. Our district already has very limited instructional support capacity. Reading specialists that should be coaching teachers are providing direct services to students. We do not have a math specialist. Curriculum coordination falls on school administrators and the assistant superintendent as just one of their many responsibilities they carry. We are missing resources that many districts have. As a former principal, I know firsthand the difference leadership support makes. With adequate administrative support, principals can truly know their students and staff, follow up after difficult moments, and be present for successes, not just respond to crises or attend meetings. Our school administrators want the time to make positive phone calls home, to share those aha moments that they witnessed, to celebrate a student's kindness, to recognize a thoughtful response to a challenging question in a classroom, to sit with a teacher and plan a fun interdisciplinary unit, to sit with a paraprofessional and talk about their career path, and simply to check in with families and see how they can better serve the community and the family. Those moments matter, and they will not happen if we only have one administrator trying to manage everything. This is difficult work, but we have something good to protect and strengthen here. We cannot move forward. We cannot move backward. I respectfully urge you to support the full original proposed budget and preserve the leadership structures necessary to fulfill the Hilltopper promise. The children of Somersworth, now and in the future, are counting on it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. Yeah, thank you. Welcome.
Hi. I sent an email earlier, but I figured I might as well come up and do it myself. So I am the president of the Somersworth Association of Clerical and Aides, our union here, and currently serve as a full-time administrative assistant at Idlehurst. For 4 years prior, I worked in a split role between Idlehurst and Maplewood. Though through that experience, I saw firsthand how dividing positions between buildings affects not only office efficiency, but also the consistency of support available to staff and students throughout the day. I now see a coworker navigating a split schedule as I once did, and I recognize how challenging it is to divide time and attention across two school communities. I understand how this impacts workflow, communication, and the ability to fully be present with students and staff needs immediate support. Put it on my phone. I didn't print it like everyone else. I can only imagine how much greater the impact would be in a role such as an assistant principal, where consistent. Wow, sorry. Hold on. Where constant presence, visibility, and responsiveness are essential. Paraeducators and administrative assistants provide that steady, constant support that schools rely on. Paraeducators work alongside students daily, supporting academic learning, behavior, and emotional needs. Administrative assistants are often the first point of contact for students, families, staff, managing communications, student needs, safety concerns, and the day-to-day workflow of the building. When these roles are reduced or stretched too thin, the effects are immediate. Students wait longer for help, staff loses a key source of support, and offices can become overwhelmed. Small delays can quickly grow into larger disruptions and that affect the learning environment. We have also experienced what happens when key support roles are removed. In the past, the administrative assistant position was eliminated and later reinstated because the reduction created significant challenges for the building. Similarly, during my first year in 2018, the assistant principal role was shared between buildings, but that arrangement was short-lived due to the strain it placed on staff and students. Assistant principals are critical to daily school operations. They respond to student behaviors, safety concerns, family communications, and staff needs. When that role is reduced or split, responsibilities do not disappear. They are redistributed in ways that impact the entire school community. The assistant superintendent role is equally important. And I can speak to Kat just on a personal level, but this position ensures curriculum coordination, compliance in school, and the district-wide consistency, all of which directly affect school and classroom experiences. Reducing this role could create gaps that ripple through schools in ways that are not immediately apparent, but deeply affected over time. I also want to note that all positions currently being considered for reduction are important and critical to student success. Custodians, teachers, administrative assistants, paraeducators, assistant principals, assistant superintendent, CTC programs, teachers, social workers, PD curriculum, and more. All of these roles are essential to creating safe, supportive, and effective learning environments. Each one contributes in meaningful ways to students' academic, emotional, and social development, and the loss of any of these positions have real consequences in our school. I believe strongly in our administration's ability to do what is best for the students and to mitigate the effects of difficult decisions. I have no doubt that all angles are being considered. At the same time, I hope the board carefully weighs how essential every staff member, whether it's direct support roles or leadership positions, is to the stability, safety, and success of our schools. I understand that difficult financial decisions must be made. I simply ask that long-term goals not be pursued through short-term changes that could unintentionally disrupt the support system students and staff rely on. Stability and accessibility. I also had a speech impediment when I was a child. I had that helped, clearly. And students benefit most when the people who support them every day are fully present in their roles. I also want to acknowledge that our school board has always put students first. I believe we have a strong board, and I greatly appreciate that the work that you have done in the past and continue to do every day for our schools. I am hopeful that at some point we may receive adequate funding from the state to further support our students and staff. I also want to express my appreciation to Maggie Larson, John Shea, and all board representatives and staff who continue to advocate tirelessly on behalf of the school district. Thank you for your time, your consideration, and for keeping the best interests of students at the center of your decision making. You're all amazing, and I really do mean that, every single one of you. And I cannot imagine the time and effort you put into these decisions. Please know that your dedication does not go unnoticed, and we sincerely appreciate it. That's it.
Thank you so much. Whew. Anyone else? You'll still have an opportunity during our school board meeting to speak, but if there's anyone else right now, we can start to close the hearing. Yes, not deliberative, but oh, sorry. Oh. Okay. Okay. You're welcome.
This isn't going to be good.
You're welcome. State your
Do
name.
you think Stephanie and John cry?
Do you want me to read it? You can get it.
No,
You've got
I
this.
actually scratched
Okay.
everything I wrote. I'm just gonna so everybody, hi, welcome everybody. I am Liza Coco. I'm the principal of Idlehurst Elementary School. I have been here 23 years. I am also a taxpayer in this district. I live at 4 William Street. Don't please, I shouldn't have said that. Oh my God, I never told anybody that. I'm just kidding. I'm leaving. I should be safe. And for real, but I'm also a parent and probably okay. And I'm also a parent of a child who's a sophomore in college and came up through the system. Okay, so my whole career here, my child was coming through the schools. So sure, I was advocating for my child, but I was also advocating for a district that I can concur. Obviously, I can say everything John says every day. We all are here for the same reason. And this district is such a special place. And I just don't want anybody to lose sight of that. And every year we stand here and do the same stuff. Like what Maggie said 2 days ago, I get the government. It is crazy, the funding and how the lack thereof. But we're starting to go back to days where we're dividing each other again. And we can't do that. Like you guys, we cannot go backwards. And what I remember as a single mom, I raised my kid in this, I could have lived anywhere and I could have worked anywhere, but there was something so special about what Hilltoppers stand for. And obviously I'm very passionate about Idlehurst and the staff there, but every building, I've worked in all the buildings. And you guys, the comments on Facebook and about funding and all that and our salaries, and we have to know the facts and we have to educate ourselves before we start going against other people, because that's what causes a real rift and we go back to those silos that John and Kat have tried so hard to break down. And all I'm going to say is obviously, really the main reason I'm here is because I thought I was being punked today because my assistant principal was out for the first time all year and I had to be there by myself. Okay, and I can tell you firsthand, we can list all the list of everything our APs do. They do crazy amounts, and everybody can stand up here and advocate for all these roles up here. But a school cannot be run with one administrator. I witnessed it today. I was out in my stilettos, not that I really wear stilettos, but I'm out in the snow doing recess because I wasn't expecting it because we have 12 staff members out who are genuinely sick or their children are sick. We had 3 subs come in. We're very grateful for those 3 subs, Kat. But it is impossible to run a school with one administrator, and I need you guys to know that. So please keep that in mind as you guys go forward. And I know there's no money. And just remember, I am a taxpayer and a single mom, and it is torture. It is hard. It is really hard when taxes go up. I dread my bill. In fact, I don't open it all year. Like it's a scary thing out there, you guys, but please don't go backwards. I beg you all. Okay? Thank you everybody for your time. And obviously the school board, the greatest school board ever. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, welcome.
I have no notes. My phone is over there. This is from the hip, and I wasn't going to say anything, but Liza's remarks are important, and I want to capitalize on that. So with your permission, I'll jump on your coattails. Thank you. This is nobody's fault, right? I've sat on the city council now for 15 years, so I've done 15 budgets. I'm about to go into 16. And every one of them is sort of like this. This one may be a little heavier for a variety of reasons, but they're all sort of like this. And I've likened the budget, the city budget, which includes the largest portion, which you've gone over here tonight, is like a game of Jenga, right? And we pull one of those wooden blocks out every year. We've done that for 16 years. How in the world does the thing stay standing up? I have no idea, but I think it has a lot to do with Hilltopper spirit. It has a lot to do with community will. It has a lot to do with things that are not tangible. People care, right? That's what keeps this thing standing up. Now, can it stand up forever? I don't know, right? I don't have a crystal ball. You don't have a crystal ball. It seems to get tougher and tougher every year, but it stands up. So as much as the conversation about losing positions and programs and fewer buses and whatever else you have to deal with happens, I know that it can be dour, but try to have some positivity to know at the end of the day, somehow we'll come through it. The folks that spoke before me are right. Again, this is no one in Somersworth's fault. We could certainly point the finger at the state and federal government. I do often from my seat over there somewhere, about the funding dilemma that we have. You know, I was looking at my phone before I came up here, and I was kind of going back through my photos. I had to go back quite a ways. It was 2012, and I came across a couple pictures in my phone of me painting bright yellow signs in my basement to vote no on question 1, to vote against the tax cap. I haven't lost many things in life, but I lost that one, right? The community spoke loudly about the need for a tax cap. And sitting on the council at the time, I thought, oh my God, this is the beginning of the end. How are we going to survive this? But again, somehow we have. So we've had a tax cap since 2013. It's hard to believe that it's been well more than a decade that we've had a tax cap, right? My good friend, Mr. Roseberry, was the one that promoted and got the tax cap passed here in Somersworth. And you might say, I call him my good friend. He truly was. We differed immensely in terms of our political ideation and how we would go about funding things. But what we didn't differ on is that we both cared about Somersworth. We just came at it from a different way. He was concerned about people on fixed incomes and their ability to pay. I am too. I'm concerned about our ability to educate our children, to police our streets, and to make sure we're prepared to fight a fire if we have to do that, right? All those things are important. And it's back to that Jenga thing, right? It's every time we do something, we're pulling at it, we're pushing at it, but it somehow stands up. So I just thought a little bit of positivity was important because, boy, it's hard having these conversations. So thanks for indulging me with a few minutes tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, Counselor. All right. It's almost 7:15. Anyone else before we take a brief recess before we start our school board meeting? Oh, yeah, and I can allow school board members to talk, just not deliberate on the budget. Yep. Thank you.
I just want to say I appreciate all of you coming out here and speaking. It takes a lot of courage. I feel a little bit like my target's on my back because I did make a Facebook post trying to encourage people to come forward. I do value, if you had said to me 6 months ago, Carrie, you're going to suggest cutting some of your vice principals, I'd be like, you're crazy. There's no way. I've always been a component and I speak highly of our vice principals and our team in general. But when I looked at the budget for myself personally and took away like the people and just the positions and saw like what could we do to shift, like not anyone in particular, but say what could we shift? That's what, myself I came up with. Is it right? It might not be. I'm one board member, and maybe it's wrong, and we can revisit that. When I added Kat last week, it wasn't Kat specifically, because she is amazing. Like, she has done phenomenal things. It was more like, can we take the director of student services, and then we'll discuss it later. Maybe, but I had heard that we couldn't take that because of some of our funding. So I just want you to know that I value all of you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for speaking. This is awfully hard. I can't say enough great things about our administrators, and this is incredibly difficult, but thank you for being here.
My green light. Hi. No, Carrie, thanks. Board member Clark. You know, this process sucks. It's going to go in the note. Right? Do, because it does. And I think I appreciate your comments. And, you know, I don't like any of this. Thank you for proposing alternative solutions. I'm so happy everybody showed up to talk. We don't get a lot of people coming all the time, and this is really nice. I basically wrote myself a paper while I was sitting here because this and this. I don't need to read it right now. I'll read it later. But I will say, as an educator, someone who's worked in the schools for 20 years or more, works in alternative education, I cannot imagine not having the institutional knowledge, vertical teaming, curriculum support, liability coverage, discipline and relationship building, especially that this town needs, that the assistant principals and the assistant superintendent provide.
I've only been here for a few months now, but I do have 20 years in education. I have worked in a very small elementary school, about 250 students. I've worked in years where we've had an assistant principal, and I've worked in years where we haven't had an assistant principal. And I would by far take the years where I've had a couple of extra kids in the classroom and an assistant principal, because that leadership, that day-to-day support for staff and students and families and the bus drivers and the lunch aides and the is fundamental to running a school. Having spent some time with the administrative team just as I've come on board, I have witnessed just such a cohesive and dynamic and exciting place to be. And if you had told me in 2024, or even at the beginning of 2025, that my bingo card would read, get elected to a school board, I would have told you bunk. There's no way. I am not political. This isn't my jam. But I did it because of what I was seeing at these board meetings. I did it because I saw the care and concern, the foresight, the vision of this team, and I didn't want to not be a part of it. We will be cutting positions. That's not a comfortable place to be, but it looks inevitable at this point. I feel very strongly that cutting assistant principals or assistant superintendents from this budget will be detrimental to the vision that I was so excited to be a part of. Thank you.
Okay. Yep. Last one. Okay.
Okay. So this is kind of like two pieces. So one, I just want to be clear that the idea of having too many administrators did not come from this board. It's something that I've been seeing in the community for well over a year, posted just like randomly. And I think that it is a fundamental misunderstanding of the difference between a school administrator and like a CEO or something. I don't need to repeat everything that was said because you guys actually took all of my notes while you talked. Being an administrator is a nightmare. There is not enough money in the world, and none of them will tell you this, but like there's not, and they seem to like it, but there's not enough money in the world that you could make me do it. And for background, I was a classroom teacher in Somersworth for 6 years. I am now a school psychologist, and I am pretty decent at systems level pieces. And I am telling you that it is a very hard job. I would love to know how many calls you guys get a day, if anyone wants to throw that at me, because we could divide it by minutes and it would be, I think, really eye-opening for the rest of the community.
Are you requesting that for a data pull?
Yeah, I would like it later at some point. And I'm going to have a lot more to say because I have like systems points about this. But I just also want to share a personal anecdote that I received a call from an administrator about my own child earlier this year. And I called back because I had missed the call, and they were delayed in getting back to me. Fine, phone tag. And the second I got on the phone, they actually said, sorry, I was being a one-on-one for a student for the last 2 hours, I think it was. So just to be clear that like when we don't have the subs, that's what the administrators are doing. If we didn't have if the whole lunch service team didn't show up, they'd probably be in there cooking like spaghetti and meatballs. Like I don't like there's just no way to explain the role of a school administrator, and the idea too that the pay is wildly different. They work way more days a year than a teacher. They work more days a year than I do. Like it's not comparable. Like it's not this big it's not this CEO that's making 5 times what the average employee is. So I just would love for the community as a whole to understand that piece of it and stop putting this all on administrators as if cutting these jobs is going to solve something in education. That's just not, functionally from a systems perspective, it's not going to work. And I also will tell you that I wanted to make sure that my gut instinct was correct, and I asked all of my teacher friends, and they were in agreement with me. So.
All right, Board Member Knievy.
Thank you. One, I want to applaud everybody who came up to that podium. As someone who's struggled with public speaking in the past, that's bloody terrifying. And to everybody who came up and speak, we applaud it and we thank you. And it's great to hear from school staff and people from the community. I've lived in this town since 1988. I'm probably one of the longer residents in the whole school system. One way or another, I've been part of the school system since 1988. My family's paid taxes here since that time. I've paid taxes here for the last 12 years. I understand that our tax bills going up is scary to everybody. But I also see the writing on the wall with what's going on in education in this state. We're staring down EFAs taking money from the district. We're staring down open enrollment, potentially stealing kids away from the district, or wanting having kids leave the district because of that. My opinion is the best way to keep kids here is to give them the experience that they deserve by having this town. I've had many chances, I'm not going to say to escape Somersworth. I've never wanted to escape Somersworth. There's a reason why I have raised my 3 kids here. I have 3 kids in the district. I've dealt with everybody on every level. And I'll close with saying that just this town is magical. And not many people understand that aren't from here. And to think about losing kids to other districts because of cuts that we have to make breaks my heart. And I just hope that people realize that the Facebook comment section on posts that we make or articles that go up are not indicative of reality. The administrators, we love you guys. I have a wife in the district who's been here forever. I hear what the administrators have to do for her and other teachers. I was a classroom teacher for 3 years before. I have an ex-colleague in the audience, and I remember what it was like when I had administrative backup and didn't have administrative backup. So, yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that. Otherwise, I'll just keep rambling on for a while. But
I just want to start off first. Thank you all for coming and speaking. It's really important to have you guys all here. As you know, I'm a taxpayer here. I live here, as well as I have a bus full of children of my own. I pull up and I open up the doors and they all just pile out. So it's important for me because you know, I came here about 6 years ago, and when I came, I did my first walkthrough with my kids, and I said, wow, this place is a family. This is where I want to be. And when I met Maggie, I said, I think I want to do something with the school. With my other 4 jobs I got going on, I said, can I join? I'd like to do this because everybody here knows everyone. Everybody here works with everyone. And it's important to see that. If I could say today, take this piece of paper, rip it up, let's not do anything, cut anybody, I would love to do that. This is by far one of the hardest decisions when I'm a supervisor at a hospital with 60-something odd people and running 38 departments. This, to me, is it's so heart-wrenching. I don't want to do any of this, but I know we have to come up with a decision. I don't think that the principals can work without the assistant principals. I actually just had to speak with a few of them. They know my face. And in seconds, they were taking care of business. They worked together. It was amazing to see. The coaches, the administrative, the secretaries at the desk, they run the schools. They're doing all of the work for these schools. So this is all very important. I hope that we can come up with a great decision. It's not going to be the best, but I'd like to hopefully be able to keep what we can keep. Thanks, guys.
I'll try to be brief, and I just and just to say, and we'll start our board meeting soon. But I've been up here for a while. Thank you to my board. Thank you to my neighbors. Thank you to teachers and educators. Thank you for speaking. You also can come to other meetings and just speak like other times, but this is kind of how it happens in the advocacy work. And I will tell you that there's a lot of people that work really hard, and in my role, this is the most difficult budget I've ever seen, without a doubt. And it's the most difficult environment that I've been in my tenure. And I will commit to advocating on behalf of special ed reimbursement and funding is my laser focus. I will be in Concord next week. If there's anyone else able to advocate for that, I do have hope with this. I do have hope that we'll be able to receive more money, and we just have to keep that, because what's feeling right now is that despair, but the only way is through this, collectively through this. Sometimes you need the duality of being a little bit upset to be able to move through things, because our last hearing, I don't believe anyone was here. But I appreciate everyone's thoughts, and I appreciate the board's thoughts. And with that, we do have our regular school board meeting to start, but we'll have about a 5-minute recess in between that, if that's okay. And that will close the hearing on the budget. More opportunity to speak at the regular board meeting as well. Thank you. Bill, I think we're going to need a couple more minutes. I'm going to give them all another, 2 minutes. 2 more minutes. I can't. 2 minutes.
Thank you, too. I mean, honestly.
Okay.
Bill painted mini D&D figures yesterday for STEM, so it was excellent.
I think we've lost control.
Kids are really good at painting.
We're pretty good. I think we're good.
Okay.
I've been.
Yeah, I don't
She doesn't even know.
Don't rave one.
Yeah, don't get her going. She's drinking.
I'm glad you didn't go get that coffee.
She quit.
Okay. All right, 3, 2, 5. Hands on. Five's up. 5 hands. Oh my goodness. All right, this is too late. 7:40. I'd like to call the school board meeting to order for February 5th, 2026. Starting at 7:40 p.m. Can I have a roll call, please?
Maggie Larson.
Here.
Carrie Clark.
Here.
Marsha Brown.
Excused.
Bridget Jameson.
Here.
Kirsten Gowdy.
Here.
Carly Prescott.
Excused.
Sarah O'Brien Hart. Here. Crystal D. St. Croix.
Here.
Patrick Knevy.
Here.
Any students, can you join me in the pledge? Since you're still here and you stayed through the whole thing. Come on up. Come on up. Come on. Right up here. Right up here. Come here. Just join us in the pledge. You can start it off. Okay, ready?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty
And justice for all. Thank you. Sorry to put you on the spot, but usually when there's students here. Okay, we have 2 spots for public comments, citizens forum. It's right now and at the end of the meeting. Is there anyone right now that wishes to address the board? State your name and where you live, or just your ward. Okay, I don't see any. All right, we have a consent calendar this evening consisting of the School Board Facilities, Operations, and Safety Committee meeting minutes, the School Board Public Workshop, and the enrollment report. What's the wish of the board to adopt the consent calendar?
Wish to adopt the school calendar.
As presented. Okay, do I have a second? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, wonderful. Moving to our reports, our student representative report. Natalia, thank you for sticking through a budget hearing. I appreciate that.
Of course. There is a little something I do want to touch upon on that, by the way. I haven't been in Somersworth my entire life. I didn't go from the elementary school to the whole middle school to the high school like everybody else. I kind of came in between everything. And I became close with the community really fast. So I just want you guys to take that into consideration, how close our community really is. And I want you to be, considerate of when you're making these cuts, because like students do build very close relations with the teachers. And I know I have. And for some seniors to say like, oh, this won't affect us because we won't be here next year. But for me, it's like I want to be able to come back home and realize that, hey, this community is still what I grew up with, even if I haven't been here my entire childhood. But that's all. So I do want you guys to really be careful with who you choose to cut and who you choose to keep. So with that being said, so we have come over halfway of the school year so far. We've transitioned into semester 2 and grades have been posted in Power School. Semester 2 parent-teacher conference at SHS will be held on March 12, 2026 from 6 to 8 p.m. Emails will go out with sign-up sheets, and this is a great opportunity for parents and families to visit the school and meet with teachers. Course scheduling is underway for the 26 to 27 school year. A reminder that SHS will be transitioning to a new schedule with every other day rotation. Most core classes, including English, math, and science, will now be a year long. Students have brought home course registration sheets and will be working with counselors and advisors to complete. Somersworth High School Mental Health Club continues to meet and plan activities to raise awareness for mental health and suicide prevention. We appreciate all of the help and support from faculty, staff, board members, and community organizations. Our hope is that this club will continue in the future to do well. Graduation for the class of 2026 will be held on Friday, June 5th at 6 p.m. in the New England Sports Hub in Somersworth. Project graduation will also be held in the Dome immediately after graduation. More details to come. This Friday, SHS will be recognizing over 120 students who have excelled academically and behaviorally with a Quarter 3 Topper Privilege Pass. This pass gives special privileges, including the ability to self-schedule during flex. A big note of appreciation to all of our students will help make SHS such a special place. Parents, families, and guardians are reminded to please complete and submit the updated video and audio release for which has been sent via email. It is critical that we have an updated sign form for all students in the district. And that's all for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your input. City Councilor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple of things this evening. First of all, I appreciate all the discussion on the budget and sitting through the workshops and the presentations, and I certainly get the feeling that there's a lot of passion surrounding budget discussions, as there always is. So I appreciate everybody who came out and spoke this evening to the school board. But I want to remind everybody that what you're doing right now is submitting a proposal. It's not a final decision. It's not a final list of what we're going to have, what we're not going to have. It's a proposal that goes to the city manager that will ultimately come to the city council for consideration. So there's still plenty of opportunity for negotiation, and the council will certainly, in my mind, without a doubt, have a discussion about if or whether or how much to override the tax cap in order to fund some additional priorities, maybe both on the city and the school side. But I think that discussion is certainly going to happen as the council considers the total budget. I'm reminded, Councilor Witham has reminded me that since the tax cap has been in place, we've probably have overridden it about a third of the time in those 13 years. So 3 or 4 times in that 13-year period, we've actually agreed to fund a budget higher than the tax cap allows. So I wouldn't necessarily walk out of here this evening thinking that the tax cap is the final number and nothing else is going to happen. I think there's plenty of time for negotiation, further discussion on priorities, knowing that the council will approve a bottom line budget for the school department, and then you will obviously have an opportunity, once you know what that bottom line is, to then allocate that money to the priorities as you see appropriate. So this is not the be-all and end-all this evening, and I don't want everybody walking out of here in doom and gloom and, oh my goodness, what are we doing to ourselves? There's still some time to negotiate what that budget number is going to look like. So more to come.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you. We had our BA report, but different. We'll have that at our next meeting on the 16th, and our superintendent's report.
I'm just going to keep it to one thing. Especially for our immigrant community in Somersworth right now, and everybody that's working so hard to support them. For folks that aren't aware, there was a really significant effort Friday night and Saturday, getting an immense amount of food to families that are not comfortable coming out of their houses, some of whom are not earning any money right now because of that. School did everything it could to partner and help and assist, but it was volunteers from the community. I'm not going to name any of them because there's so many involved, and I know that I will miss folks. But I want to say loudly and clearly, the mayor, the police chief, and the city manager and I met yesterday afternoon to discuss protocols and procedures and just making sure that we're doing all that we can. I want to reiterate some very simple messages to anyone, whether it's someone who is an immigrant to this country and living in Somersworth, or maybe someone simply of color or with an accent, and for those reasons isn't comfortable right now, that the Somersworth School District has your back. We stand with you 100%. What's required to be a student in this school is evidence of your date of birth, vaccination records, and proof of residency in Somersworth, period. That's all we care about. That's all we know. And although everything we talk about is about our educational mission, the primary responsibility that the 275 adults that work in this district have is actually custodial. That those kids are safe and sound and protected every single day and return home every single day. 98% of our time and energy is educational, but those process and those procedures. And the number of individuals that work in this district that have said, I don't care what the protocol is. If there's a federal agent that comes into this district, I'm going to stand between him and any one of these 1,300 kids that are ours. We are following the law. We are working in partnership with the Somersworth Police Department. We have great clarity about what we can and cannot say no to. I've spoken to 5 or 6 parents, individuals, community members over the last week or two. Anybody that has concerns about exactly what can and cannot happen in or around our schools is free to contact me directly, and I will sit and explain that to you, just so it's clear. And if there's ways we need to get messaging out in a better way and in multiple languages, we will. But I know I speak for everybody in this room today. I believe I do. Although we talk about budgeting and staffing and programs a lot, it's the values of this community that I think are what kind of holds this place together.
Thanks for being here. Thank you for that. Anybody? Okay. Oh, go ahead.
Is that okay?
Yeah, of course.
John, I appreciate you very much as a leader, and it reminds me of the someone said it. You know, if they didn't want me to protect my students, they shouldn't have taught me to take a bullet for them. So, I think I appreciate your leadership, and I know so many of us will totally stand for them. So,
thank you. All right, moving through our committee reports, I don't believe we have any. Nope. We do not have a presentation. Policy adoptions, I'm going to try to do this as efficiently as possible. If there's really any questions about policies, please wave your hands, but I'd like a motion to read these by title only for adoption.
a motion to read policies by title only.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. I'm going to read them individually, and I'll just ask for a motion to adopt, a second, and a collective vote. JEB entrance age requirements. What's the wish of the board to adopt this policy?
Move to adopt policy JEB entrance age requirements.
Maribel, second.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
IHCB LEB advanced coursework, advanced placement courses. Wish of the board to adopt.
I motion to adopt the IHCD.
Second.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep, LEB. All right. Any discussion? No. All in favor say aye.
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 Thank you. JBEBB employee student relations. Wish of the board to adopt.
Move to adopt policy JBEBB employee student relations.
Second.
Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Two more. JICK bullying prevention, pupil safety and violence prevention. Wish of the board to adopt this policy.
Move to adopt policy JICK bully prevention pupil safety.
Violence prevention. Yep.
Right.
Second.
Second.
All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Last one. JCA change of school assignment, best interests and manifest hardship. Wish of the board to adopt.
Move to adopt policy JCA.
Yep. Thank you. Second.
Second.
Okay. All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Great. I'll put this over to Board Member Gowdy to do the first readings. I think they'll need a motion to read by title only, unless you'd like to read every page of the policy. No. Okay. I'll make it. Motion to read by title only. Do I have a second? All in favor say aye. So just
Aye.
go ahead and read the first readings as presented.
BEDG, meeting minutes. FEH, supervision of construction, clerk of the works, project manager. IMDA, patriotic exercises. JIC, student conduct. JLCK, physical and emotional well-being of students. JLIA, supervision of students.
Great. These are first reading. They'll be at our February 16th meeting. Our unfinished business this evening are 8.1 Hilltopper strategic priorities and plans. Superintendent Shea.
I'm going to keep this quick and assume that we're going to talk more about it at our next school board meeting, but I'll leave that to the board's discretion. What I am proposing, given the accelerated circumstances of the last several weeks, in particular, things happening around us, by way of reminder, the draft of the strategic priorities and plan has 7 items. I would suggest to you that the first 6 are already all in progress. It was a matter of making this formalized in terms of the work we're doing on budget, facilities, and top-line curriculum instruction assessment and moving forward. They're solid. They're just basically what we need to be doing as a district. By way of reminder, item number 7, which in the first version of this was sort of a separate, and by the way, let's maybe have a task force look at reconfiguring, restructuring, thinking differently, other ways to finance what we do. I would suggest that the most helpful thing to happen now is to maybe at our next meeting bless in some form or another those first 6 things, and I'll read for you a draft motion that might be considered at the next school board meeting, if not now, and explain a little bit of context. At the City Council workshop on strategic direction and moving forward, the message from the City Council was they wish to embrace in this item number 7 with us. So it's not a superintendent or district leadership initiative. It's not a school board district leadership initiative. It's a City Council, school board, district leadership community initiative, which very much fits the spirit of where we are right now. A motion, something along the lines of, for consideration, to direct the superintendent to establish within the month a commission or task force jointly with the city charged with studying the need for this work, and if and as needed, then developing a detailed plan for overhauling, redesigning, and/or restructuring elements of the entire Somersworth School District to better serve our Somersworth students now and for the longer term, operating within a school budget that is fiscally attainable and sustainable, aimed at delivering on the Hilltopper Promise and the district's 4 key performance measures, and thus also better serving the greater community of Somersworth and our nation. The group will be charged with making significant preliminary progress during the next 6 to 8 months, March through September or October. If and as determined necessary in this first phase, a complete plan is to be in place within the next 15 months. That would be March 2026 through May of 2027, so that we have direction before the next budget season, and then we have clear direction before the next school year that follows. The circumstances that got us to this place and have accelerated around us, that's a half hour and a bigger discussion in of itself. We've talked a lot about it over the last several months, but I'll just add one thing. Numerous times I've talked about the Nellie Mae Foundation as potentially a funder of this kind of work. I've talked about the Great Schools Partnership based out of Portland as potentially a collaborator. 5 days ago, the Great Schools Partnership in Portland sent us, and they invited Somersworth in particular, a note to Kat and to I, to be a part of an effort to do exactly what I just said. I got back to them immediately and said, we're already halfway through this process. They're talking about providing coaching, providing support, all kinds of assistance, identifying priorities, tighten up your vision, what are your core measures, and how are you going to get there? To which I was just mildly excited about until Stephanie pointed out the last part, because she read all the way through it, culminating in grants of $100,000 to $500,000 for districts that are committed to this as early as next fall. Whether we could get something like this or participate in something, but this is an example. I believe the rest of the state and New England are catching up with the work that we've been doing for a year, which is very helpful to a point where we're still in front. As soon as everybody's on board with this, I just want to make sure Somersworth's there. And the open enrollment piece that it kind of snuck in there is this could be law before the end of the month, was kind of the final dagger that, wait a minute, time out. We need to be more aggressive than we already articulated. The City Council is very excited about this. I just happened to have a meeting with them ahead of this, and that's the proposal. all in on strategic priority number 7. It means nothing in terms of what's going to change tomorrow. It just means we are serious about looking hard at these things and figuring things out in a quicker way than we might earlier have been doing. Priorities 1 through 6 keep going if we fund them in terms of internal needs and direction, which kind of fits perfectly with the budget issues. They have to. That's curriculum, instruction, assessment, getting out of the siloed approach, putting more effort into math, putting more effort into PD for our teachers and all of that. I will take full responsibility, because several people said it, that this budget period seems particularly difficult. You know why it's particularly difficult? Because in addition to the school care assessment, I'm insisting that we look at spending money in different and new ways at the same time we're looking at cuts. Hence the real ouch of this thing. And I will meet with personally any teacher whose position is in that lousy spot and own that piece of it. But we will decide that collectively. But that's the 8.1 Hilltopper Strategic Priorities and Plans update.
So let's, is this number 7, is this outside the box
Yes.
task force? Is that where, okay.
Yes.
Can I use this to propose a motion? Which
Yep.
one? Which one?
It's the top.
Oh, okay.
At least it's
Can I
just
do
a
both?
draft.
Okay.
That's it's
But
like
can-
8.3, yeah.
Wish of the board to continue, if there's no wish of the board to continue with this. Yeah, okay. So.
Can you rephrase that?
Okay. Oh, so there's a draft motion for priority number 7, out of the box task force that was in our agenda materials. And it's giving the superintendent authorization to move forward with this, right? And I'll read it through, if you don't mind me doing the motion, since it's here, making the motion. No, you don't have to motion anything. I'm just wanting to make sure everyone knows what I'm doing. I'm making a motion for, to direct the superintendent to establish within the month. It's the shortest month, too.
We don't have time.
Okay. Okay. A commission or task force jointly with the city charged with studying the need for this work. And if as needed, then developing a detailed plan for overhauling, redesigning, and/or restructuring the Somersworth School District to better serve our Somersworth students.
Second.
Oh, hold,
you still weren't.
midway
Sorry.
through. Wait a second, let me get it out. Now and for the longer term, do I need to speak quicker? Operating within a school budget that is fiscally attainable and sustainable, aiming at delivering on the Hilltopper Promise and the district's 4 key performance measures. Let me just say these things. Yeah, I have them here if you don't mind. The 4 key areas of attendance, enrollment, climate and culture, learning and graduation, matriculation data. Okay. And thus best serving the greater community of Somersworth and our nation. The group will be charged with making significant preliminary progress during the next 6 to 8 months. I think it was double that before, right? March through September, October. If as determined necessary, a complete plan is to be in place within the next 15 months, March 2026 through May 2027. Do I have a second? Okay, thank you. Do I have any discussion on this? Any comments? Okay. In the task force, just briefly, would be district personnel, community representatives, educational organization, experts to do this. Is there anything else specific? Good. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you.
Can I just, for
Yep.
folks watching or that are here, so this doesn't change anything tomorrow. This
No.
is pursuing, just so folks are clear. So anything that this group, and we need foundation and expert assistance, both in terms of resources, and we might be able to get some of that at no cost, is huge. The belief that this district is one that I think would be very appealing because of so much that we have in place, that this will come back to the school board, and this is what we should do. So that would be the next step. There's no group going off to change everything. It's simply dialogue, participation, everybody involved that has capacity to get us to a place where we have a better idea of what we should and should not do. And even if we decide we're not going to do something particularly bold, ideas will come out of this that will feed into those first 6 priorities in a really positive way.
Great. Thank you. 8.2, this is the ongoing deliberation of the proposed fiscal year 27 school budget. from the hearing earlier this evening. So this is yes.
Could I just speak for a moment about like some systems pieces?
Sure.
Okay. So first, Councilor Austin, I just wanted to say thank you for the reminder. I think that what's happening is like the repeated nature of this, happening all the time, does definitely wear on people and kind of sets off that like fear response. So I think that the reminder was a good one, right? That we're partway through the process. So when I'm looking at this, and some of the new additions, I am concerned about the administrator pieces. And my goal here is not saving specific positions. It's figuring out exactly what we cut to make sure that our kids are suffering the least, right? Because there's going to be an impact no matter what we end up cutting. But just looking at it really carefully to reduce as much suffering as we can. So generally in a school, just for background information, the roles that the AP does are primarily behavior response, and then typically the principal does a lot of the curriculum pieces. I think in our buildings, both are doing a lot of behavior response. And there is an impact to teachers when you remove the people who are supporting the behaviors. So there was a 2025 study that surveyed 500 public school teachers, and they found that 78% have considered quitting their profession since the pandemic, and it's generally due to a lack of administrative support. That's the primary reason. Excessive workloads, inadequate compensation, and challenging student behaviors. And so I do have concerns. I understand we're trying to save teachers. I'm worried we might lose teachers as a result of cutting the assistant principal positions. Larger class sizes can reduce or can increase burnout, but I do think that that's a secondary thing, right? So like if you're talking about going from 18 to 22 kids as having been a teacher, that's not huge. So I think we need to understand those numbers. And I'm worried that, I just think people would rather have slightly larger class sizes, but I'm open to discussion about that. The other piece to this is if we cut the assistant superintendent position, and it's been very clear that the role of the assistant superintendent has been curriculum, right? So you cut the assistant superintendent, you cut assistant principals, you have now cut the person handling the curriculum, and you've cut the people doing a lot of the behavior support. That now all falls on just the principal, and there's no way that's sustainable. Our suspensions are going to go through the roof because no one is going to be able to manage that. And really, from my personal perspective, like to see things moving in a restorative way, not back towards a whole bunch of suspensions. And those are going to be vulnerable kids. Those are going to be kids who need to be in school. I think too that our reading instruction here is really only starting to improve. It started to improve a little bit during the pandemic, and it was kind of isolated and siloed to a lower level. There have been multiple studies in the past few years that talk about the connection between students who can't read and increased behaviors. It's very common. They get very, very frustrated that they can't read and the behaviors come out. And I think a lot of children experience that. And part of the mental health piece that we're talking about relies on kids being able to read, right? Like we need to be able to support them so that they don't develop, like I see kids constantly when I evaluate who develop secondary depression and anxiety due to low reading levels. It's extremely common. And so I think if you cut that position, we're losing the gains that we're making district-wide for curriculum. And I really don't want to see that happen. That's actually one of my primary interests is reading instruction. So
Okay.
that's most of my thing.
Just reading instruction, if you just point us which one?
Oh, I would like...
Or just in general?
So the assistant superintendent.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
okay.
then
I didn't know if you had
both
like a
assistant
curriculum
principals.
something. Okay, so,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
great.
because,
Thank you.
that's
Yeah.
driving most of it.
All right, so those two, if I can just have the board kind of say what you want, definitely say what you want, but just for kind of efficiency, for today, it's your priorities. So that would be about $500,000 that we then have to move above the line. So just to kind of absolutely say what you're going to say. So, but in order to make some progress, you have to find what you want to not have reduced and then put something else in there, because we're at the line of 2.1 million that we have to submit for the tax cap. Yep, O'Brien Hart.
Am I saying a thing? Or am
You can say whatever you want to say, but you can
I just
say.
wanted to jump on with.
If you wanted to say you wanted to save it all, then we'd have to find it somewhere else and put something else.
I
in.
want to save it
Okay.
all. I can't save it
Okay.
all, right? Like, that is, again, it sucks. Board Member Jameson, I also wanted to, so here's the deal. We increase behavior referrals, right? That means we increase suspensions. That means that more kids are not able to access education. That means we're paying for out-of-district services, right? So it's a direct impact to costs. And again, I have a paper I can read later if we really need it. But, even we're just talking about the assistant principals and the assistant superintendent helps. Somebody mentioned the least restrictive environment. Thanks. I love the least restrictive environment. If we can't have people to support the least restrictive environment for learning, that means the referrals are increased. That means increased cost for all sorts of other stuff. So, anyway, I want to keep them. I want to keep everyone.
What would you like to
So
reduce?
I can tell you. I can tell you.
Oh yeah, no. So
I
wait, hold on.
yield the floor to
You don't have to.
Jameson.
We can,
I yield my time.
Okay. Okay.
Happy to do it. No, I appreciate the talk, but just to make a little bit of motion here, Board Member Jameson, go ahead.
I don't think it's a good idea. I think it's a less bad idea. I'd like to discuss moving the director of student services up. I think that in terms of what is needed right at this second, I think we need to move that up. I am assuming, and this is a big assumption, and I'd like someone to answer, that for these teaching positions, we have done the demographic calculations and that we're suggesting reducing them because of sizes of the grades. And I want to be assured that we're not going above 22 to 25 students in classes.
Kat can talk more about it, but the answer is yes. There was a lot of time and thought that went into all of these decisions with regard for enrollment next year and projected enrollment, following those further out, and looking hard at class sizes and not pushing anything further up. And Kat's done particularly a lot of work on that.
Mag.
Yeah.
Yes,
So-
I'm just handing out, to speak to that, I'm just handing out specifically to talk to that so you can see the numbers that I'm referencing. So we did take a lot of time to look at enrollment, and not just enrollment for next year, but the year after, the year after, the year after. So looking at least 6 to 7 years out to see, are there bubbles coming up, how would that be impacted? And so you'll see it in front of you. And I also took into consideration, let me preface, these are not perfect numbers, right? Like there are lots of factors in every building, from essentialists to electives to special ed to kids coming part-time, full-time. But these are pretty fair if you just look at enrollment in a school, enrollment in a class, and number of teachers available to teach. And you get an average of what that class size would be, knowing that there's variation for those different things. So you can see in front of you, state mandated class size for grades K through 2 is 25. Our board and policy this year said that they would recommend, when possible, no more than 18, when possible. For grades 3 through 5, the state says you can have up to 30. Our board recommended, when possible, 23. And then for middle school, 30 is the state mandated expectation. Our school board said, when possible, 25. So what you have in front of you is looking at for next year, and this is with all of those, the above the line, below the line, if we were worst case scenario, and we had to cut one, if we had one less teacher at Idlehurst, one less teacher at Maplewood, 2 less teachers or 3 less teachers at the middle school, these would be average class size. Again, not fully exact. So, and then when you look at enrollment, we don't have this current first grade class, and Jody spoke to this, right? This 117, please don't cut a second grade teacher. She's not wrong. You actually can't. And I put that on there for you because you would be well over the mandate. You'd be at 29.9 students in a classroom, and your second grade teachers will all leave. So, and we don't want them to leave.
Okay.
So if you look at that, that's the biggest bubble. We don't have another bubble coming.
Okay.
That size
This is
for
great.
the next 7
Thank you.
years.
Is answered?
Yeah, I mean, and I've been a teacher and I've had 26 kids in my class, and these are not unreasonable numbers. They range from 19 at the lower end, if we reduce everything, to 25.5 at the 8th grade level.
Thank you. What a great, it's wonderful to see. And I think our policies were a little lower, but it wasn't a restrictive thing. It's just the wish of the board to see smaller class sizes. In 45 minutes, we'll have to make a vote to extend our meeting. That hasn't happened yet. That can happen, but 3 hours is a lot. So just with your discussion, what you think, if you can just be as succinct just for our time and being able to move, but I want everyone to have a chance to speak. Go ahead.
All right, so I'm going to piggyback off of Board Member Jameson. I also think the Director of Student Services is not something I don't know if we're in a position to go after it right now because we're doing it without it. So that's 128,000? 183, excuse me, I had slight number reversal. Also looking at the enrollment numbers for moving up to, you have a very small 8th grade class going into the high school next year. There's only 74 students going into the high school next year. I think losing a high school teacher is the easiest place to absorb. I hate losing a teacher. But I think that's the least bad place to lose a teacher would be the high school level. If we could lose a high school teacher and lose the Director of Student Services, that makes up the $300-ish thousand to bring back the two APs.
Yep. If we can, I'm not sure who I should ask for help with the math. Katie, can you help? Thank you. I appreciate it. But, and I think for the 16th, if we actually can have a something up on the screen for the public to be able to just see where we're at, if there's any changes, that would be where it would happen, like the City Council did. That would be really helpful. Board, if I can make a suggestion to do the math right now, just for efficiency's sake, and of course everyone else can have a time to speak, but can we remove the 2 assistant principal positions off, the assistant superintendent position off those 2, about close to $500,000. And in order to make up that, to get to a number for this tax cap, can we please move the Director of Student Services position up? Can we please move, let's see what else we said, middle school teaching positions after seeing these numbers up? That is 200,000 plus 183,000. What else did we hear?
One high school position.
One high school position up. The school to home coordinator up. And if we can just do the math, if you don't mind.
Can I ask something while she's doing the math? Are there any, are we expecting, every year we get money back from the state in like the fall, right, that we can't spend on positions? Are we expecting that? I guess I'm asking the person who's doing the math right now.
Let me.
Great.
I can answer while I do it. I can multitask.
Are we expecting more money in the fall? I mean, with legislation and with being able to have special ed reimbursement go down to 1.5%, 1.5 times threshold, which I'm working really hard. I will set up camp there until that works, and I have hope that may work. Yeah, that's a tough one. But they wanted the New Hampshire Education Funding Committee said publicly they wanted to get this information to us in March. That's too late for us. So yeah, Board Member Jameson, I would be more of the mindset for a lot of facilities, projects, all those things, because then we can get that back rather than a position. I know that's a pain to do if we can find a little bit more, because then we can get even print costs. I know that's kind of moving it around, but if we need to do that. Do you have our?
You're at 2,177,799. So you're just below.
Does that work? Can we add the? Oh, jeez. Can we? Are we close enough, or do you?
Yeah, that's. I mean, you're within a couple $1,000s.
A couple $1,000.
You need 2,180,000. You're at 2,177,000.
You don't need to move anything else up there. Okay, John.
you.
Okay, John. Yeah. I was going to move like 1,000 from the thing, but if we're okay with this.
Oh, they did.
I need to just raise a problem, sorry.
Oh,
actually.
So we're required to have someone fulfill the role of Director of Special Education and Student Services.
Yep.
To be clear, right now, that individual is one of our building level coordinators who has joined with our other building level coordinator. So it's Lorraine and Amy this year that are filling that role, and we've kind of divided some responsibilities. It's been a heroic effort, and a heroic effort that continues to be two very unreasonable jobs, to be a building level coordinator and share those responsibilities with some administrative assistance from time to time. But the brunt of that has clearly fallen on Amy, and we thank her for her effort. She's going to see it through to the end of the year, and Lorraine as well. My recommendation, I don't know if we can fill this position, but I think we have to try. If we were to cut it entirely, then our goal would probably be to leave half that amount of money to see if we can contract with a retired person with the right certification and everything else. We were in that boat 2 years ago, and we couldn't find that individual. I know a rather popular person in this district with those credentials I hounded quite regularly, and he wasn't in a place to do that. And just to be clear, where we end up though is if we can't fill the position, we can't find a contracted person, or we choose not to fill the position, which I don't think I recommend that, because then we can't even try. The responsibilities would need to fall to non-certified personnel. It would probably be your assistant superintendent and superintendent, and I would suggest it would be a crippling load that we would share, and one that both of us would probably have to look at professional and legal ethics around whether or not we would even be comfortable in that spot. You've got two folks very much committed to this district, but it might be problematic.
Okay, heard. Yeah, Board Member Jameson and
I just need to raise that currently there are at least 14 open SPED director positions in the state of New Hampshire. No one really wants to be a SPED director for a lot of reasons, except some very dedicated people. And it's really hard to look. Is there anything creative we can do? Because it's really hard to look at $183,000 that
yep.
we are the likelihood of being able to fill. I was just talking to people about this the other day.
Based on the superintendent right now, just 1 second, and in saying this, and I'm not sure how soon we can post for this.
My recommendation would be, and I'll say it briefly, is if we had this in the budget and took it off of this right now and put the 183 in there and had the go-ahead to post, we've got that money set aside because we're looking at various models. If we find a director of student services, that might change some of the other budget in terms of places we could find savings. If we don't find it and we have this chunk of money that we realize by June we're not going to use, we can reconfigure within, it's either potentially for somebody contracted or potentially looking at our model to yet once again patch it together the best we can. But the dollars will be well used one way or the other.
Maybe they can listen to this board meeting and see that we're the place to be. Let me make the recommendation to take the Director of Student Services position at $183,000, put that down off the bottom on the line, and the last two here for additional consideration that would make up for that is the proposed additional ESOL teacher and an admin assistant. That would make up for $183,000 where we need to be. Is there anything? No, it's additional.
I will not object to putting the proposed additional ESOL teacher, despite some of the
if we can work it in another angle, but this makes us whole to the number. Agreed? Yeah.
Okay. I agree, unless is there anything we can find in, I don't know if it's worth the gamble. Is there anything that we can potentially find in facility stuff or materials that would balance out the administrative assistant?
I would say, because it would be such a deep dive when you look at like all those things, because that's what happens with all those materials and things. Like, of course we need print materials. I mean, we're looking at like supply lists. I think that unless someone has some other idea, or unless we're going to, and I think that it's just tough with that because then it would like wipe through all of our smaller line items. If we took away the facilities, we still wouldn't have enough money to do it. We can adjust this again if something comes up, and if anyone in the public looks at our budget and anyone finds anything that say supports of a small, please let us know. Please let the SAU know. Please let the board know. We're kind of charged with this over the next 2 meetings to kind of make this whole. Please let us know. But I think at this time, for this meeting, I think we're in an okay place to move forward with what those changes are. And do you have them listed as okay? Do we have more things on our agenda?
I think we're close. I just want
We're
to
close,
be
okay.
clear on next steps. So we're going to look at all the input we just had, and we will respect it entirely and bring it forth to the Budget Committee meeting and public input session on Monday night.
Yep.
I just want to make sure, given it's 8:30 at night and everybody's had a long day, that you trust that Kat, Katie, and I, and the administrative team will also look hard at it again, and we might come back with a few buts. Can we consider, just so we're being super thoughtful about that. Thank you.
And I think with Board Member Jamison, anyone else, for any items that we could purchase later in the year, any of those numbers without being a position, I know it's that nitty-gritty type, but if we can look at that, that would maybe alleviate. Supportive? Yep, okay. Thank you. Open enrollment.
We're just blowing through good stuff here. So, short summary is that House Bill 751 did not go, is today Thursday?
Yeah.
Did not go to a vote today, and we expect it will go to a vote next Thursday, and the governor will likely sign it quickly, but this is not a given. So what some districts have been doing is kind of patching the loophole in the existing law to protect themselves in the short term. I pride myself on hanging around with the right people and getting free legal advice, and reaching Higher New Hampshire, we are now one of the key communities, and I've gotten good support and advice from them on all of this. Their recommendation is not to take it as assumed that this will go through, because it could be delayed, and there's a bill now being passed through that says let's study it for a year, which means in the meantime, we'd be open to the existing law, which a state Supreme Court in the fall ruled in a way that didn't make sense to any lawyer in the world, requires participation. So the proposal here, we did have to get a little bit of legal advice today to make sure we understood how a city proceeds on this. Towns all over the state right now are putting it through to town and town process. Cities are different. And we were afraid this would involve a petition and a referendum, but it does not. If the Somersworth School Board makes a recommendation to the City Council to declare SAU 56 an open enrollment school district per current state law, not the proposed state law, as of this day, and to cap exiting students at 0%, which is in accordance with current state law, and potentially to cap entering students to the greatest extent possible within the legal parameters of the current law as a statement of do no harm. We're not interested in playing this game. We simply want to protect ourselves until the law is changed or killed. That would require the school board either voting tonight, or if you want to wait till next Monday, and then sending it to the City Council. The City Council will be required to have a public hearing no sooner than 15 days before a vote, and no later than 30 days before a vote, to decide where they stand. So the community will have an opportunity to speak up and understand this, because I'm sure there are folks in the community that like parent choice and will probably need a hearing to better understand the implications of this. I, for one, like parent choice too, but if you're going to support parent choice, fund it fairly. Don't do things that damage one community at the expense of another. So if the board is interested, there'd be a motion for this.
I'm more leaning towards kind of having this be like a first reading, and because we have a board meeting coming up.
You want to read that as a first, just as a first reading?
Yeah, as a first reading out, and it is 8:30 for the motion. Motion to put forth the Somersworth City Council an official recommendation to the Somersworth School Board to declare SAU 56 an open enrollment. This sounds weird to say. Okay, an open enrollment school district per current law as of this day, February 6th, 5th, to cap exiting students at 0% in accordance with current law, and to cap entering students to the greatest extent possible within the legal parameters of current state law. So just the first read of this for now, and we'll see, I think, what, next week, you will vote on it on Thursday, is it? And who's voting on it? The House?
The House it already passed the Senate, it's in the House, and if it stays in this form,
Okay.
the House is apparently the only reason the House didn't vote today was because they had members that were out sick. And they're still poised, I think, to pass it. We don't know if they change it, and the signal from the governor is she's anxious to sign it. So it could be law, and effective immediately is how they position it before the end of the month. The mayhem that this creates for school districts everywhere in the state to do this mid-year is hard to understand.
And for a student exiting our district, depending on the district that they go to, I think you said Oyster River or Dover, what is that cost per student?
We would expect it would be 100% of the New Hampshire DOE's current rate where we are, so somewhere north of $20,000 that we would pay to that school. If it's a special education student, we remain responsible for the special education bill and services as well to send out of district. So just by way of reminder, if the family could consider a portion of their property taxes went to fund public schools, so shouldn't I be able to take that to another community? That's rational. I'd like to think we pay for public schools to support all of our kids and the greater good, but that's not where we are right now. And you could argue that the state's portion also can follow the kid, even though they're underfunding. The rest of the money comes from the family's neighbors. There's just no way to get around it.
Yep. And about 40 students would be about $1 million if 40 students left Somersworth, approximately. Okay. All right. Any discussion on that?
So I know we're late.
Yep.
I think that we're under a gun here with a time. We're literally with the first reading, we're on the hopes and dreams that the House doesn't get to it next week, because it looks like if they get to it, she's going to sign it, and we're now stuck with whatever it is. We also, I don't know if they made any amendments to House Bill 751 it is, because I didn't get a chance to read it today, if they were going to retroactively take away any protections that any city or town put in. I think we need to act judiciously. We need to act with temperance, and time is of the essence. And I think we forego doing a first reading and just go to a straight vote with this.
Would this protect us? It wouldn't affect us or something if we...
The reality is this provides more protection if the vote is delayed and they take time to correct it. Almost every expectation is that the law as it's passed, like Kearsarge is a district that was one of the early ones to take protective action. They will not be grandfathered in. They're not protected. They filled the short-term plug. So it's really if the state is slower that we're protected in the interim. If they move quickly, it will not have mattered that we did this or not. But we do want to be prepared if it's delayed, because it's gotten a lot of attention right now. So parents that might want to look hard at this for one reason or another, wherever they live or wherever they might want to send their kids, might be looking at, okay, they're going to take another year to pass this or study it, but there's a loophole right now that allows me to do it based on the state Supreme Court decision in October. That would leave the door open for a little while. So that's the rush. I agree with you about the rush, Patrick. But it's kind of flipped based on how the state reacts.
Yeah. So typically with this, I'm not sure if it's voted on. It was the time between it's voted on in the House and the governor signing it. Is that what we're looking at for the buffer? Because, no.
At the early, if we voted on it tonight, it would go to the city council. The city council would have to act on it, schedule a public hearing. So it's going to be a couple months before we're protected. In a scenario where the state doesn't enact a new open enrollment law for several months or another year because there's a study group being proposed, that's where we're protected. It covers us for the next several months and going into next school year. And that's the piece that is most critical. And we wouldn't be protected, and there will be a public hearing before we actually do this. We're just sending it to the next step.
Yep.
I think with the amount of even scrutiny that is on the whole process, even if the timelines won't necessarily protect us, I think there's some value in moving quickly for the sake of moving quickly and presenting our like nothing goes unnoticed, right? So, and because the public would have an opportunity to weigh in with a council hearing, correct?
Yes.
Yep, okay. So I agree with board member
Knievy.
I motion that we vote tonight to do that.
I mean, it would be a vote on this from the school board. I haven't had too many votes that haven't been in the publicized.
I understand.
To do.
This is irregular.
Yeah.
I totally like. I want public, and I'm for choice.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if I completely understand it because we don't do this.
I just think we
anyways.
need to start the process.
Okay.
And I understand that it won't necessarily protect us.
Okay.
But I also understand that sometimes it's worth taking the shot, even if the state moves fast, just to be like, hey, like we still are taking whatever possibility we have to provide choice fairly.
Okay. Yeah. Any other comments?
Especially because it's not like the public won't get to hear something. And the city council and the school board are unified on a lot of things. And I think it's time that we, trust the council to hear the people
I haven't
as
made
well.
any. I'm just trying to wrap my head around it. I haven't made many motions for the school board to declare ourselves as an open enrollment, but at 0. But then, what's the law that the city council has to? Because it almost seems like a policy change to us. But what's the city council's role in it?
It has to be a city legislative decision for a city form of government to get out of this. It's 194D3, Roman numeral 1B1, that dictates this process for this type of endeavor. It's a state mandate, so it's a little bit more complicated than a board policy.
Councilor Austin, any thoughts? And
Well, I'm going to defer to the superintendent's interpretation of this because
okay.
This is the first I'm hearing of that. So.
Yeah.
And to be clear, once again, the vote tonight simply sends it to the city council. It provides for a public hearing, and if and once approved by the city council after a public hearing, which will be a few months down the road, it would then protect us if the state hasn't enacted a new law at that time, and we'd be protected until such time that the state enacted a new law. If the state enacts the new law while this is in process, then the process stops because it becomes moot.
Okay.
Is this one of these scenarios where, like, if we were in a city, if we were a town, we'd have like the town
Deliberative
vote on it?
vote.
Okay, so it sounds like it's more our recommendation than us actually taking like specific policy action, which makes me more comfortable forwarding it on more quickly because it's not really in our hands. It's kind of fundamentally the city council, I think.
It's just declaring an open enrollment and saying 0 at 0. It's
But this isn't our declaration. This is our like,
It's a recommendation.
Hey, we're just
Yep.
like, hey, council,
Voting.
could you please look at this for us and provide an opportunity for the public to hear because we need this off of our timeline quickly.
Well, it sounds like, if I'm listening to the superintendent correctly, it sounds like the legislative body of the community needs to take this action.
Yes.
So in a town, that's a town meeting, right? And the voters get to choose. In a city, the legislative body is the city council. So that's why it requires the motion from the school board to recommend to the city council that this is the action you want to take, and then the council has to put into motion the process to make it happen, if I'm understanding.
And it's the school boards sending this to the city council that avoids a petition need and a referendum need. So it's the one legislative body to the other, so it lands at the city council properly, and the public hearing is a requirement.
Can we add in removing the tax cap?
Second, yes.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move forward with becoming an open enrollment school district. Let's make the motion to put forth to the Somersworth City Council an official recommendation for the Somersworth School Board to declare SAU 56 open enrollment.
Okay, so I motion to.
Let me just get through the
No, that's
current
fine.
law
Motion.
as of this day to cap existing students at 0 and cap entering students to the greatest extent possible.
I second Maggie's motion. Okay.
Yeah.
Any discussion?
Nope.
Okay. All righty. Thank you. Oh, all in favor? Aye. Okay. Thank you. All right. that is all. Upcoming meetings, Monday, 9 o'clock, 6 p.m., Monday, February 16th, 6 p.m., City Hall. And now it is time for any public comments from the public. Anybody? Welcome, thank you.
So my name is Ethan Clark, Ward 1.
Is your mic on?
Screen.
Oh, nice.
My name's Ethan Clark, Ward 1. I've been coming to these meetings just about over a year now. Up to this point, I've never made this statement because I wanted to keep it personal. I've born and raised in Somersworth. Both of my parents were school teachers in the 90s, and I came from a family of 8 children. So I'll let most of you do the math, since most of you are probably familiar with what that salary and that cost of living looks like. I received a comment after my last attempt to approach this board, just because I'm trying to bring multiple alternatives, because I think we need to see both sides. The city council sees one side, and as we heard tonight, we're seeing another side from the school portion of it as well. We're at a very critical time on the residential side as well, and Maggie and John can both attest, I've been coming to these meetings because I do want to get more involved, possibly either on the school board or the city council down the road, and I've grown up in Somersworth. We're at a very critical point because we are in a unique position with our tax rate currently, because we've never had a lower tax rate than Dover. We currently have that. If any of you know a realtor, I would challenge you within the next week to go talk to them, because that tax rate for somebody moving to Somersworth with a family looking to start their lives has an incredible effect on whether they buy a house here, in Dover, or in Rochester. How this budget gets passed is going to have a direct effect on that. Within the last 10 years, our enrollment has reduced by over 25%. If you don't think the tax rate has had an effect on people moving to Somersworth, to raise their children here, to support the school, to be involved in the school and bring new teachers in, that's a very realistic factor. So for anybody out in the public, I've grown up in Somersworth. Both my parents were teachers. I know the effect that a budget has on a teacher's household. And that's why I'm coming to these meetings. That's why I'm getting involved with certain factors here. I also think that it does go up and down. It is a situation of give and take. What we've made very clear here tonight is no one in this community wants kids to suffer. Here's the other pendulum swing, though. Somersworth, compared to Dover and Rochester, has the largest population over 50. The average cost for a home in 1999 in Somersworth was $70,500. The current average is over $400,000. So I'll let you folks do the math. For somebody who is over 50 years old, approaching retirement, that has to pay that tax bill and has to sell their home or move out because they can no longer afford it within the last 2 to 3 years because they bought it then and they want to stay in Somersworth. There is a very real effect to that. So I'm not coming to this like, oh, hey, teachers shouldn't get paid. We also have to look at the long-term effects because let's face it, do tax rates really ever go down? Hardly ever. So once that money's there, yes, it did just recently go down, but the only reason it went down because values went through the roof and they knew what they were doing there. In honor of the Patriots going back to the Super Bowl, the only other thing that I would say, there was a year Tom Brady took less money to go win a Super Bowl. Why in this budget have we not at least presented that we not cut anybody? Keep all the current staff and say, folks, this is what it looks like if everyone stays across the board and our kids don't suffer at all. Why isn't that even presented? That is an option. It is an option. I had one other point, but I think I'm going over, and I obviously don't want to keep anyone here late. But I want to see the schools succeed. I want kids to succeed, and we have an amazing staff. We have an amazing community, and I would mirror our counselor that spoke earlier, where we always come through as a community. I just hate that, hey, let's get a different result, but the only two things ever talked about are raising the tax rate and making cuts. I made a recommendation a little while back, and it would really be on the responsibility of this board, alumni associations, fundraising. Pretty sure if every single one of you called all your friends and say, hey, we're going to hold a fundraiser March 1st, March 30th, April 1st, I think we'd probably get an amazing result from our community. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Okay, so seeing none. Board members?
I have something quick. So I took either what you had said the last meeting, and I was going through, and I was seeing that the teachers would get a 5%, which I think everybody deserves even more than that. But I had a couple of questions in regards to that 5%. I wanted to know, one was currently right now when I manage my staff and I have to give increases give them their percentages, I have to do evaluations on my staff. And the evaluations, their percentages based on their evaluation. Is that how it is here? Is it that they just get, I'm trying to figure it out. Is it based on that everybody just gets the 5%, or do they get, like, for instance, based on their evaluation? That was one question. Another thing is there a cap on the job descriptions of each person's job description? So for instance, if I'm capped out on my job description, I no longer get a percentage, I get a spot bonus. So is there that here also? Is that anything?
No, the answer is no and no. I'm not sure
Okay.
I understood the second one specifically, but no, there's not a merit pay system.
Okay.
It's based on where you fall on the scale. So evaluations and support are intended for growth and development and moving folks forward. And in worst case scenarios, sometimes having a difficult conversation with somebody about being let go. But that's the focus, not pay. The collective bargaining agreement's based on years and educational credentials. And the second one, I'm not sure I understand, but I know the answer is no, because I would understand it if we did it. But I
think it's a bonus instead of a percentage.
Correct.
The capping of job
So
description.
the capping of job descriptions. So say, for instance, my cap of my job was 150,000.
Oh, the cap.
And I was
salary
at
cap.
150,000. I can't make over that, but then what they do is they give me a bonus instead of giving me a percentage every year.
Evaluation. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, there's longevity, and but not a bonus of that kind,
Sorry,
of that
2
type.
seconds.
Yeah,
I
sorry,
found the
without
note.
objection, yeah.
Since you guys have city council representation, like the equipment upgrades, flooring, heating, trucks, we have multiple flooring companies in Somersworth. We have multiple heating and HVAC and those types of companies. We have a ton of car dealerships. I would request that this board request of that council to put an abatement process in place to support our schools. They have the ability to do it. For all you residents watching, call your counselor. There are abatement programs available and tax relief available for companies within our own community to fund these things. So I would request
you.
that this board request that council to make it happen.
Yeah, and as a recommendation, Councilor Austin, can you share tax abatement where it currently stands, and if
Doesn't stand.
there is none, but where it currently stands, and share it with our board.
I hear the feedback. Thank you.
Hear the feedback. Thank you. All right. Anyone else? Other board members?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, so all of your points are taken. There is a fourth option, which is that the state of New Hampshire falls last in education funding in the entire country, meaning that every massive percents of it fall on our property tax dollars, and that's not the case other places. So I would encourage you to look at New Hampshire fair funding just for like actual actionable pieces for that other option, because it is not reasonable that all of the school funding comes from the property taxes. I also just wanted to say that I heard somebody earlier say that John and Kat are some of the best superintendent and assistant superintendents in the state. And I would like to echo that. I spend a significant amount of time in many districts. I've been in the last 5 years, because of my role, I've been in 10 plus districts. And I can tell you that there is not anyone better There's not. So, I mean, kudos to both of them for the work that they do.
Not putting any jobs posting. Got it. Heard. Board Member Clark.
I might like the most hated person in the world. Okay. I just wanted to say I appreciate this board and our communication that we have. And I did send a message to a committee saying that I wanted to look more into seeing if we can move Director of Student Services, and I knew that we weren't able to move. This is awful. I just want to say I feel awful. But I'm thankful for what we do here. I'm thankful that we came together and are able to hopefully move some things around.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone over here? No more problems for every solution. Let's keep making the changes. And so we don't need to make a motion in the next couple of minutes to continue our meeting. We will be here on Monday at 6. All the board and all the public is welcome. We will allow public feedback. Obviously, it's a public input session. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for speaking. With that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
A second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.